Start. We have main engine start. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
We take you higher and higher and higher. You feel it over and over again.
We have some explanation for that. We have none. Don't worry. Continue your program. Oh boy, it's really something super fantastic here. We couldn't ever imagine this. Roger, we know about that. Could you go the other way? Go back the other way. Well, that's kind of rich. Pretty spectacular. God, what is that there? That's fun. What the hell is that? Don't tangle. It's kind of light there now. Roger, we got it. We marked it. Good communication. Bravo Tango. Bravo Tango. Start Jezebel. Jezebel. Yeah. But this is unbelievable. We're going off Bravo.
What's up, everybody? And welcome to Dave Scott's show, not the After Hours show on YouTube. This is Marquise, your friendly neighborhood UFO investigator. Well, you know, that intro was not supposed to play. I played my intro for the weekend show. My apologies for that, ladies and gentlemen. That was actually supposed to be Dave Scott's, but we are here with Dave Scott's intro. Now, we are today going to be talking to Drew Bankey, and I want to say welcome to the show, my friend. How are you doing today?
Doing great, man. A little busy with
Yeah.
the kids, but yeah, excited to be back in the saddle and back on the show.
I can imagine, my friend, with the new baby, it's gonna be it's pretty interesting. And so again, congratulations to you, and thank you for having the time to peel away for a moment and talk about these things. So, but I want to give a special thanks to everyone joining us tonight. I strongly encourage you to check out Jessica Jones and Dave Scott. Of course, that is, Dave Scott should be here right now, but of course we know he's laying his mother to rest for the moment. So check them out Monday through Friday, and of course Jessica Jones Saturday and Sunday on YouTube right here. If you can't get enough of SOR, y'all know what you can do. You can check out our archives. They are free at youtube.com/spaced-out-radio. If you would like to show some support, go ahead and smash that like button and abduct to subscribe to the YouTube channel here on Spaced Out Radio. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can join our Facebook group because it is lit at Spaced Out Radio on Facebook. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out the Bumblefoot. And a great way to show support for what we do here at Spaced Out Radio is by shopping at our online store at spacedoutradio.com. Let me tell you about Drew. Drew, of course, here. Drew, I got a couple of things that I learned about you, but I'm gonna read your bio so everybody knows. I'm pretty sure they have an idea for the most part, but just in case you don't know, Drew is as the description says, he's not only an Iraq Freedom War veteran and medicine man, but also holds such Native American distinctions as Sundancer and Sacred Pipe Carrier, which is, we're going to get into that because I'm curious. I love the traditions. I love to look at these things and understand how these cultures do these really interesting, in my opinion, customs. But he also carries he's also carrying the South American name of I can't pronounce this properly. Can you say Aguila Cósmica?
Yeah, Aguila Cósmica means cosmic eagle.
Thank you so much. Aguila Cósmica. That's awesome, by the way. He's widely considered a master of plant medicine, specializes with, again, Huachuma, San Pedro.
Huachuma.
So
No worries.
I'm done. He's awesome, ladies and gentlemen. Let's just get to it. So why don't you tell people about yourself so I don't mince all these different names up like I just did. Tell everybody who you are, what you're about.
Yeah, I've been on the show a few times, but for the new listeners that might have been coming on, I don't know, in the past year or so, I think it's maybe been a year since I've been on with Dave. I'm an author of 2 books now. I'm Perfect and So Are You, the story One Man's Journey to Oneness. with my co-author, Dr. Clean Duran. And then I got a second book with her, the same co-author, and that's Find Your Inner Guru. You can find both of them on Amazon or my website at Sacred Journeys Within, which is also the name of our plant medicine church me and my wife founded in 2020. And yeah, so sacredjourneyswithin.com. Journeys is spelled with an IES. I know it's not correct punctuation, but the other one was taken when we started setting it all up, and we was kind of invested in the name already. So that's the backstory on that. But yeah, I'm a veteran. I did 2 tours in Iraq. I come home with a lot of PTSD. Got out in 2009. I was in Iraq in the early years. So in 2005, I was in Baghdad. 2007, I was in Ramadi, Iraq. Uh, I I called airstrikes, fixed wing and rotary wing aircraft strikes, artillery strikes. Um, so I was on the ground, seen a lot of stuff, especially my second deployment. And I'll leave it at that. But come back with tons of PTSD. Went through a divorce in Iraq from with my first wife, and got out in 2009. From 2009 to 2014, went through PTSD symptoms, but I wasn't recognizing them or anything like that. In 2014, I had a major suicide attempt, wound up in the hospital, in the ER, really almost died. And that's kind of
Wow.
got me into the VA healthcare system. Went through that program, and from 2014, 2016, wasn't working. I was just medicated, going through talk therapy all the time, basically having to relive every over and over by talking about it. And ayahuasca come into my realm in a conversation or something that the seed of ayahuasca got planted. And not too long after that, I found myself setting in my first ayahuasca ceremony in Florida, and did one the second night. And yeah, totally shifted my viewpoint. I was told, like, I knew there was a higher power, but I had no idea what it was. I didn't prescribe to any religions or anything like that. And just got thrown into the spirit world at my second ceremony, and just kind of just thrown off into it, unknowingly finding myself in a space that felt very familiar, but you know something that I had no idea that was even possible, and come back with a lot of understandings. And the medicine told me to keep returning to it and do more work, and I kept going deeper with it. And eventually started helping out with ceremonies, and slowly worked my way through the process of getting to the point where I started to hold space for other people. And I've held space for up to 86 people in ceremony now with ayahuasca at one time. And um, work with a lot of different medicines. And that in turn, that's really just a small part of it. Really, that really in turn has really opened me up to my connection to source, my understanding of oneness,
Hmm.
and my ideas of how everything operates.
Interesting how like traumas can lead you to some of the greatest spiritual revelations of your
Mhm.
life. I mean, I wish it didn't have to be the way, but I find it interesting that for human beings, we
Yeah.
find spiritual transformation through tragedy and through pain and things like that. I think it's so strange. So tell me about because I know you mentioned what you went through after Iraq. I have a couple of questions about that. The first question that I had, and I wrote this down because I didn't want to forget. I thought it was elaborate. Um, how do these disparate experiences, how do these experiences like connect? How do they connect and inform you to understand the world, or your world, your universe? How do you take the pain, the trauma, those experiences, and then all of a sudden transform, have this spiritual transformation? How does that happen? Can you walk us through that?
Um, well, I think a lot of people can relate, honestly. I think we've all been there in some way, form, or fashion. We've all been, especially, 30s, 40s, 50s, middle age and above. You've probably had an experience where you've had to let go and really have you ever been to a point where you really prayed? Like say something was happening to one of your loved ones or something, and like you may have prayed before, like when you was a kid, maybe I want money, or I want, I want a new truck, or I want the new pair of shoes or something like that. But it's different when you pray out of necessity, and that's when you're actually praying, I believe, because you're actually like you're really reaching out for something
Yeah.
to answer, and those tragedies take you to that point. I with ayahuasca and everything, before I went to ayahuasca, I was at a point where, okay, I got PTSD, the VA is going to help me. I was in this process for 2 years. I was
Mm.
coming to a point to understand that the VA can't help me. Who is going to help me? So I had to I really, the ayahuasca come just the right time. Like I did my first ceremony with the understanding that the whole process was going to be a spiritual process, but I had no understanding of how deep it was going to go. Like
Mm.
I didn't know it was going to shake my whole understanding of everything. I didn't
Yeah.
know it was going to, I had no idea it was going to be like that. I didn't know I was going to become like a minister. I didn't know I was going to become an author. I didn't know I was going to like start a church, and all this stuff. I
Yeah.
was, I was a veteran, I did 2 tours in Iraq. I was sergeant when I got out, that was my, persona. I had, I got an American flag on my arm, things like that. Like I was that guy. And ayahuasca showed me that that was not who I was. I am an eternal being. It showed me a lot of
Yeah.
things.
So
Right off the bat. But I think to answer your question just in a
yeah.
nutshell, I think the tragedies, traumas are all a design, because
Mm.
really once you get over there, you can it the spiritual experiences let you see that situation from a higher point of view, and be like, oh, it, it's really not that important,
Mm. That I find that so interesting. I've come across this idea many times. You've the fact that you've written all these books and you're doing all this work. To me, it means that you're not just educated and knowledgeable, but you have something beyond a passion, like it's a calling. Do you think that that's? I mean, I know that's again, not to be religious about it, but like, do you feel like you were chosen in some way to do this thing?
Well, it's not a secret, like I talk about this all the time. Like I have I was given divine instructions, like, whatever, however you want to call it, was the word of God, it was the word of the universe or
Mm.
source,
Right.
or it was me. I believe that we're going through an experience like of reflection,
Hmm.
and because everything that we look at is a mirror, like it's a mirror as of what our external experience is. It mirrors what's internal dialogue. If we're loving ourselves, we're filled with love, we're filled with manifestation, we're filled with abundance. If we're
Yeah.
filled with hate or despair or anything like that, it's reflected on the outside. And I also believe, like, whoever we're talking to, we're really, I believe there's one consciousness. So if you take this all down to the raw truth of a lot of spiritual beliefs and religions, that's the raw truth of it, is one consciousness. In a way, there's a lot of wording and paths to get there, but really a lot of it boils down to, okay, one consciousness. Like, you have to put labels on it, and that's why there's God, there's Buddha,
Yeah.
there's Allah, there's all these different names, but that vibration is the same vibration, and that's what I believe. You know, and all these different paths are the same, or different paths, just like we're different colors, different races, different
Mm.
ideas. That's why we have so many different paths to the same truth.
That's okay. So you just sparked my curiosity here. So let me think about this for a second and I say this the right way. Okay, so let's say, for example, you mentioned that it's like we're all one anyway. Do you think that, like a machine that has many parts, we are one, or do you think it's something even more, like I guess supernatural, where it's like we literally at our essence are one. Like not the machine isn't all the same. Like the atoms themselves are essentially all the same. The subatomic particles are all the same. Like what do you mean? Like what's the how should I say this?
The best way I could to explain it is to put it into a metaphor. Like I don't have the words to really articulate, like, but it would be like the cells in your body
Mm,
individualizing themselves and saying, I'm an individual cell, but I'm living in this body,
hmm.
but I'm an individual cell.
Okay.
Now, and it's like the drop of water in the ocean. You can either be the drop or you can be the ocean, or you can be the drop of water in the ocean with the ocean.
Interesting.
And
Interesting.
that's it's the cell in the body. Like I believe that we're a cell in a body, a celestial body, not a physical body. I believe we're in a celestial body of the universe. I believe, and all these to jump ahead in the store at the situation and maybe jump ahead in this podcast interview.
Yeah.
You know, our star brothers and everything are in that same body.
Right.
That same their cells in that same body, but they're not individualized. We're individualized. We're going through the illusion of separateness, but we're all really just one. Like
Yeah.
we're connecting. That's why, you know, dowsing rods work. That's why
Mm,
pendulums work. It's all connecting to this energy, and that's what all these little things are. These are little things that we left, you know, from our past and let slide through the cracks of creation and time and society and
mm,
technology. We let the dowsing rods slip through. We let the pendulum slip through. We let the tarot cards slip through, so we can start to remember through these things of who we
mm.
really are, like, and how powerful we really are.
You know, the one thing that my audience loves here is to see me get owned. Let me explain, right? I'm like this cerebral nerd bookworm dude, you know, the terror that this, and then when I meet people like Michael Carter, who's into the spiritual aspect of the phenomena, and now you, it renders my logic mute because like it's like, okay, if I look at it this way, it changes everything. I can't use the logic, the oh, let me just give this book smart thing to it. There's a completely different aspect to this experience you're describing that it renders all logic mute because it's not important. What's important is what you feel, that connectedness, that consciousness, the spiritual, you know, the experience that's beyond the logical processes of the mind.
Yeah.
And so here we are again, where I got to change the tone of my conversation here, and let's get into that aspect, the spiritual aspect. Let me ask you this: you talked about our space brothers and the connectedness we have to them. I want to know how the Native American traditions see these beings. How do they see them?
It's never okay. I can't speak for all tribes, and I'm not speaking for any tribes,
Right, right.
but I can
What's your
say
experience with it then?
I
More,
can
more
say
specific.
the Lakota tribes,
Mm,
the Lakota, Nakota, Dakota tribes, and those are the three Lakota. People think that there's just Lakota, but there's actually Lakota, Nakota, Dakota, and they're all
okay.
in the South Dakota, North Dakota area. Now, they used to be their region used to be a lot wider. They 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 make star blankets. They quilt star blankets. They and this is long traditions where the grandmas would make blankets and put stars on them. And
Mm,
this is what people would go up and do humblachas with. They would go 4 days without food and water. They would go sit on the mountain, sit down in one spot, cover up with this blanket, and do a full on fast without food and water, and just set up there
wow.
and have their vision. Humblachas means crying for a vision. That's what it translates into. So literally, they would go up there and cry and go through all their emotions
Yeah.
and have their vision. They in a dream state, or a lot of them would have, you know, like full on visions, or have animals come up to them,
Yeah.
give them a message like that.
That's cool.
The 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 Anasazi, the oh my god, big tribes in Nevada, man, Navajo, not
No, yeah,
Navajo, the Ute, all these like there's tons of tribes that talk about not only a time that we're going to go through in humanity. There's over 28 different prophecies that talk about and describe a time, and what all these describe as a collective are describing the times that we're going through right now, that we're going to go through a shift in consciousness, a shift on the earth, a shift of power,
mhm,
from um, to a more balanced in between the masculine and the feminine. Yeah, but they all talk about star people like there's no there's no question that where we're from, like the connection to the stars was never disconnected. So
yeah,
in a lot of these tribes, it's that question's kind of hard to even answer, because it's not it has never been a question, especially within the tribe, especially within spiritual deep spiritual talks and ceremonies are all based around stars and directions and all that. So
yeah.
it's it's just always been a part of the story. It's never been demonized, and it's never been made fun of.
Mm. I find Native American just the culture. To me, it's fascinating. I mean, I love the different cultures, even the indigenous populations. I talked to someone about Mokilium Bambi. That's right, audience. I got it right this time. And we talked about
Quite
the
impressive, man. Quite
it's
impressive.
I have a
I
hard
don't even
time
know
with
what
like
that is, but it sounded really cool.
it's like a dinosaur, a living dinosaur. It's pretty cool.
What?
Yeah,
Get
it's
out of
it's
here.
amphibious, and in the indigenous populations in like the Amazon and stuff like that, they've seen the Congo is where he's been. They see that they talk about Mokelium Bambi, and allegedly, according to them, and listen, they've shown pictures of a dinosaur. I can't remember the name of the exact dinosaur, and they say, "Yep, Mokelium Bambi." So like they know what it is. There's just no pictures or cameras and stuff like that to see it. So it takes somebody boots on the ground to see it. But again, the more indigenous populations, the people that stick to the traditions of old, right? There's something so special about those cultures that I'm glad that the Native Americans don't let go. They won't let go. I feel like everybody's in the U.S. is like leaving our traditions, and we don't even look back at them. We believe in this new blended tradition, which is good to blend, but not to ignore the old traditions of the cultural connections to like spirituality. That's what I mean.
Dude,
Um,
it's a legit technology, man. Like I've seen some amazing things. Like I've been in a Uwipi ceremony. You can Google it. Yuwipi, Uwipi. Google it.
okay,
And
so why?
no, I'm not saying you Google it. You can Google it now if you want to, but
Yeah,
uh, it's a ceremony that's it's very rare. It's no medicine involved, no psychedelic. You don't eat peyote or
yeah,
anything. It's just songs, and basically those songs open up a portal, and that's the first time I ever met Bigfoot was. Well, the only time I've ever met Bigfoot face to face
yeah.
was in that ceremony, and that was a closed room, closed door, locked doors, locked windows, full of people. There was like 40 people that were sitting in like a 25 by 25-foot room, lights off completely, and yeah, it's just a wild
That's awesome.
experience. And
That's awesome.
this being, Bigfoot, you can call it Bigfoot, skunk ape, or it's called by many different names, but it's really the same thing. And I truly believe it's an interdimensional or multi-dimensional being, because it come in and out of room without
All right.
ever passing through a door.
Hey,
And
my guy, interdimensional, ladies and gentlemen. You hear that? Two against 100 and whatever. All right. Anyway.
but this is that's another thing, that's the star people's never been taken out of the history books of Native American people, and a lot of Native American tribes believe that the Sasquatch is a big brother or a forest brother, which they
Wait a
refer
minute.
to it as.
I have a question. There is a story that I was told about these alleged giant humans that were, I think they had red hair and they had like a strange colored skin, but they were so big. This is according to Native American tradition or history. They could pick up a buffalo in one arm, rip its leg off, and eat it with the other, and keep running. Do you know anything about that?
I've never heard of that. I did hear a story one time. I won't mention the name or the tribe or where it come
Right.
from, but
Yeah.
it was a native elder. He's passed, so yeah. But we were talking about a story that was passed down from generations
Mm.
through his lineage, and supposedly 7 to 10 generations before,
Yeah.
the trees were above the tops of the trees were above the clouds,
Wow.
and they're they shared they shared the earth with people that were 20 to 30 feet tall.
No way. That's awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, have you talked about this before
Yeah.
on the? Okay, I'm
I don't know
this.
about on this one, but I mean, I've
Yeah,
been on.
that's awesome. That's freaking awesome. All right, you got me. You got my attention. Okay, so it was because I've been wondering about. There have been accounts of giants throughout history in different cultures forever. There's
I
allegedly
believe
archaeology.
it. I think that, well, it's obvious that the air that we're breathing is different air that was,
Right,
you
right,
know, 10,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago.
right.
It's less potent than it is now. Like the sun is less potent, and we're talking, you know, circling back to Native American beliefs or indigenous beliefs, the 4 elements: fire, air, earth, and water. That's the 4 elements of
Yeah,
creation. So all those things, and that's another thing that, uh, not to get off track, but the other day this hit me when I was taking a shower. I was like, isn't it weird that some of the things that people fear the most are what gives us life? Like fear of drowning, or fear of being buried alive, or fear of getting burned alive. Those are probably at the top of people's list for like worst fears. And those are the 4 elements of creation. Isn't
yeah.
that wild?
I
Like
dead dead dead
that
fit dead
extreme
fish cheese
duality.
spread. Dead fish cheese spread. Why did you say that? Gosh, I can't stand this. I don't know who you are, but thank you for putting that in the chat. He said weed. I don't think most people are afraid of that anymore. I think they understand that it's a plant that has medicinal purposes. But that was funny. It caught me off guard. I apologize for interrupting. But to your point, that is interesting because again, the things that we need not only to survive, but that are a part of us. Dirt. We are literally the molecule. The atom is just essentially it's a particle. It's dirt, right? We are this carbon-based being, this organism, which makes up most of what we understand about the universe, physical. So how come yeah, that's so interesting that you would mention that.
I'm about to pop your mind, man. And you can Google this.
Let's do it.
It's been scientifically proven that our DNA, what humans are made of, they have proven that I I shouldn't say that because I don't know for sure, but you can Google it. It's stardust. Google human
Oh
DNA
no,
and
yeah, yeah.
stardust.
Okay,
We're
I'm
made of
glad you mentioned that.
stardust.
Yeah, it's Stardust. Neil deGrasse
So
Tyson, who I don't respect his latest opinions about UFOs, but he said that we're Stardust, people. We're
it's
Stardust.
been proven. Like, what do you think our eyes are made out of when they go open and close? Like, what is a camera lens made out of? What
Yeah.
is our eyes are made of crystal shards that open and close
Wow.
to
Yeah.
affect the light prism.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So we ingest the light, and then we regurgitate it, really, like
Yeah.
to show like what's in our mind. That's really what we're seeing, is what's in our
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah.
It's it's crazy, man. Like,
I one of my favorite things that I heard about like Native Americans, they do the peace pipe, right? they say things like if leaders got together, if like real world leaders got together and hit the peace pipe, I feel like things would be so different. Because when you think about, and not, by the way, I'm not, it's not anything about tonight, but just in general, you need to allow your mind to think, to ponder these things, because they do bring about these revelations about reality that you would never otherwise think about. You know, who thinks about this stuff unless you're either in a dream state, in a relaxed state, right before you go to bed? You have these wonderful insights. You're meditating. They're in altered states of consciousness that you have these thoughts and ideas. And so, to Dead Fish, point, the fear of something that literally opens your mind up to all these to creativity and insight. Why? Because that's where we find the greatest insights in our lives, is through those
Yeah,
altered
man.
states.
Dude, so when ayahuasca first started, like first couple ceremonies, like I started going, they tell you to go in with intention, going in with intention, kind of question or whatever you want to work on. And after a while, at first a lot of it was like, I want to heal my heart. I was hurting for divorce. I was hurting for PTSD, missing my kids, things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was just like really weighing on me, for a long time. And so those were a lot of my things going into ayahuasca, and it would always give me the answer in a way not how I expected it. It showed me another way. Lots times they use a metaphor. Very rarely it would show me like a word. Very even rarer it would speak like actual like spoken words to me, like the medicine. Nor lots of times it would be like experience I would go through in some you know realm somewhere, and then I would really from that experience I would come bring back a lesson, and then after a little while, oh, this is how it relates to my
Yeah.
intention.
Yeah.
But then I started expanding on that, like what can I do with this? Like, can you go into this state and try to not just heal yourself, but to optimize yourself? And
Right.
that's when it started to get interesting. Like I started like on turning on things, like turning on, like I want to turn on my telepathy, want to turn on my telekinesis, like, and then telekinesis slowly started turning on, telepathy. I started realizing that it was turning on, and then I started realizing that it had been happening all along, and I just wasn't recognizing it. And
Interesting.
that's when I come to the understanding that everything's always been happening the way it's happened, but my perception of it has been shifting and rotating around it to different points. Now it's at a point where I can understand that, like, I can choose to get upset in any moment. Like I can choose to get upset being getting cut off, but or anything, or be happy about it. But
Yeah.
the divine nature, I believe, and that's what my first book is about. I'm perfect and so are you. It's not so much saying it in an egotistical sense, it's saying it in, I believe in the divine nature of creation, that every moment is of divine and perfect order, and
Mhm.
it's our choice to choose where we stand and what angle we look at that event or experience.
Dude, that was beautifully said, by the way. That was perfectly said. Um, again, I'm hearing Michael Carter in my ear saying, "Listen, brother," because you're literally saying the thing. Not exactly, but like there's a very close relation to this idea that we are creating our reality, and it's what we focus on that becomes our reality. And so, if I keep focusing on, if you don't focus on what you want and what you love and these good things, you're gonna attract the things that you don't want because you're focusing on the things that you don't want. Um, yeah, and awareness is key. I think what you're saying about like what you've always had these abilities, but the fact that your focus, your attention, your consciousness shifted is what brought your awareness to these abilities that have always been there. It's an a moment of enlightenment. Like, oh my gosh, like it's literally like all of this. Looking back at my past, this has always been there. I didn't learn this technique. I'm becoming aware of who I really am.
Yeah, I think, uh, I don't know what the definition of enlightenment is. I never even looked it up. But I think it's when you lose the fear of death, and when you understand frequency vibration, um, and you understand, we're not living in a linear timeline. It's
Right.
very it's not even spherical. It's just kind
Yeah.
of, it's all in, it's too big to even put in any of those categories. It's just always here, always. And that's what, when people channel or and things like that, there's no physical, there's no scientific evidence, to a lot of these things. But the people that are experiencing it, and I know that there's probably half the listeners right now, their hair standing up in the back of their neck.
Yeah.
You can tell it to people all day long, but that experience for that person changed their perception. Whether, whether they seen a meteor and thought it was a ship, and that changed their perception, and then they started looking at the stars, or they seen a ship, or it doesn't matter what it is, you know if it changes your perception, it does. Who's to say the relevance of it?
Hmm.
And if it really changes you, like, then it's a real experience. It doesn't matter what it is.
Hmm. Chat, thank you for being very respect. People love you, man. They love what you're saying, and they also respect the fact that you're veteran. By the way, thank you for your service. I was 11 Bravo, and I was infantry, stationed in Fort Benning. But it's just to say, I thank you for your service.
13
Um,
Fox, baby.
there you go. I can tell you right now, there's nothing like that, and not that I would do it again, especially with my life now with kids and stuff. But you don't get to, you learn what you're physically capable of when you join the military. You also learn a lot about, like, I don't know, like the idea of dedication. I guess that's a word that I can say. Like, true dedication. I learned from the military, work ethic and all that stuff like that. And you can be, you know how it is. You can also, be a regular guy in the military. It's still a 9 to 5 in the end of the day. If
Yeah.
you're not stationed in a war zone,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you learn a lot from the military, and I'll never forget it. But anyway, um,
Yeah. Dota, I like to speak on that for a second. So in 2006, I went through special forces selection for Green Berets.
mm,
Went through the first phase, didn't
wow,
get selected, but I went through the whole thing. The whole 23 days, lost like almost 20 pounds or something like that.
yeah, I can imagine.
And the biggest thing I learned from those moments was, people, your body has like days left. Once your mind says that you don't have anything left, you have days left. Your body has days left,
Oh yeah,
and there's a way to get past that barrier. And this is in my spiritual practices, medicine practices, and things, like, always pushing the boundary and saying, man, there's a barrier here, but what if I go over that barrier? And I can say that that's one of the biggest gifts that the military gave me, was what I got in selection in that moment.
mm,
Was, even if there's a barrier, you can still get over that barrier and go on the other side of it. Like,
yeah,
and to then, my spiritual practice took me to the point of, like, releasing all barriers, like barriers of understanding, and letting my mind continue and my understanding continue to evolve, like, really for the rest of my life,
yeah.
and settling into the position of being a student for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's our job on this plane of existence, or whatever you want to call it, is essentially to learn. It's to
Mhm.
learn, to grow, to short. They call it maturity, right? Perfection, or
Mhm.
whatever. It's all about that. That's what we're here for. People have told me, for example, I'm like, man, life sucks. It's terrible. Look at us, like, right? Look at humanity as a whole. We're all learning,
Yeah.
and there is a process that's happening to all of us. And I wanted to get to that, by the way, this idea that there's a shift. And I want to know if you think that, first, what do you mean by shift? If you could elaborate, but also, like, do you think there's a connection between what you're talking about, the shift, and also what's happening right now with, like, UFOs, the fact that there's whistleblowers and this and that? Do you think there's a connection, or
100%. 100%. I think the shift is, um, I think it's individual, and I think it's also on a collective scale. I think right now we're going through a phase of individual shifts, and that's being done by losing a loved one. That's going. That's that causes like a real spiritual moment. Having children, those two portals of life, when life leaves or life enters,
Yeah.
those those people that are close to that really get affected deeply spiritually.
Dude.
I've lost
Yeah.
4 of close family members, 2 nephews, and my a sister-in-law, brother-in-law, and everything too, over the past couple of years. And
I'm sorry about that.
being an ordained minister, I actually led one of the funerals for my brother-in-law.
Mm.
He's done ceremonies. He did ceremonies with me, and those times, like if you can get past the deep grief, which is hard to do, like the because we're trained to, over time, like when someone dies, we're supposed to just go into this melt mode. If we can, you can definitely show emotion, yeah, but if you can open your eyes to different things, like for instance, like I lost a nephew. I flew to Georgia to be with my sister, and which was his mother, and I got there the day after he passed. And I got there at night. It was like 9, 10 o'clock at night. I started to walk back to a fire pit area. There was like 15 people there. Family had started to arrive.
Yeah.
He was 23. Just died unexpectedly.
Oh
And
man.
I was looking at my sister, and she already lost her other son. Just like the same year actually, to suicide. And
Oh man.
so I'm looking at her. I'm like, sis, are you all right? Are you okay? And the ground starts flashing. There's like purple on the ground, green on the ground, yellow, purple, green,
Wow.
red. And we look up, and there's a meteor flying overhead, like
No
maybe a
way.
couple thousand feet, so
No
close
way.
to the ground it was flashing light over the backyard. It went right over top of the yard. And it landed like a couple counties later. A farmer found it a couple days later. It was like a couple pounds. Uh,
No
uh,
way.
you can look it up. A meteor in Georgia. This
That's
was
so weird.
from October. You can Google it. October 2021. Yeah, October 2021. Meteor in South Georgia or something like that. Anyway, um, I, my sister's looking at it, and she turns and looks at me, and she's like, we've had this discussion for a long time. Like, yeah, it's my older sister, so she changed my diapers and stuff. So
Yeah.
now that I'm like a medicine man, an author, and like all these different things, it's hard for her to like really see me for who I really am. Like
Yeah.
she just sees me as a child, and she looks at me, and she's like, "Was that him?"
So
And I said, you tell me, sis. I was like, at that time I was like 41 or 42, I think, or whatever. I was like, I'm 42 years old, and I've seen all different types of things in my life. I've never seen anything like that. And um, she's just crying. And in that moment, like I saw her have an experience that she will never forget, you know. She had a mystical experience. Everybody there witnessed a mystical experience. And it's unexplainable. Was it connected or was it not? The timing, the timing's
Impeccable. Yeah.
there.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And I've had 100 of those experiences like that, that's just that impactful, and
Mm.
it's to the point where I can't recognize the whisper of the universe anymore. You know, I can't. Let me rephrase that. I can't. I can't ignore the whisper of the universe anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's screaming at me at this point. So, but
You're tuned in, man. You're tuned in like a radio
I
frequency, right?
I think I think we all have that, and I think it's our choice. We all have free will. We all governed by some laws in this creation right now, and one of them is free will. And we we can choose to go for it, or we can choose to stay where we're at, and neither one of them's right and neither one of them's wrong. It's just is what it is.
I mean, ultimately, we're in control of it, of our. So some people say destiny or life, whatever direction we want to go, whatever you want to call it. That's essentially what we are in control of it, no matter what it is. And I mean, not only I get frustrated about the idea that there isn't any outside influence, because there obviously is, but ultimately there is a lot of choice that we have. We just don't believe we have it. Sometimes there's this elephant on the rope thing, right? Elephants on the rope since it's a baby. Take the rope off when it's an adult, and it'll never leave the circle that you walked it in, no matter what, right? It believes it doesn't have a choice. And that's essentially what I feel like we've been conditioned to believe. This is what we have to do. This is how we have to live. This is how we have to think. That we can't even imagine what you're talking about. We have to be shown, and sometimes even faced with some kind of a tragedy, so to speak, or whatever, to break that that cage. Right?
Well, I mean, we're ingrained, man. Like, the power of words is much more than what we really know about it, like, or what we really believe. Our words, like what we say about ourselves, like the words that come out, that's why they call them spells, like spelling. That's spells that come out of your mouth. Like every single word impacts like what we do, like how our life is. That's about affirmations. Joe Dispenza. All these different things are being proven now because it's happening so much. So let's go back. Let's rewind. Let's go back to our first day of kindergarten and raising our hand for the first time and saying, "I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America." What were we doing? Or what are we doing? We're giving our manifestation power through saying this pledge. Okay, you got to say this pledge of allegiance. If you don't, you're not patriotic.
Right.
So we say it, and everyone's saying it over and over every day, every morning. That energy, because words do hold power, is going and feeding basically our cages and everything that's holding us in. We built our own cages, and we got tricked into building our own cages through words and through the Pledge of Allegiance. If you go to any other country and talk about the Pledge of Allegiance, it sounds, and if you take away the understanding that, okay, this is a Pledge of Allegiance, this has been ingrained in the United States for so long. It sounds cultish.
Yeah, it does.
It sounds cultish.
Actually, it sounds like you're like, it's really weird now that you said it like that, man. And honestly, I thought about that my whole life. That was one of my first awarenesses of like, this doesn't seem right. We live in a world with a bunch of people. Like we're all in this together. Why am I pledging allegiance as a child, first of all, to this flag when we should be devoted to like the unity and what is going? I knew something was wrong about that.
Programming, dude. G.I. Joe. Look, Pledge Allegiance coupled with G.I. Joe. Man, I could not wait to raise my hand and sign on the dotted line and get a uniform. I could not wait. I was a cop. I was a cop for 3 years, and I was in the reserves in the Army. And then in 2005, I thought I was going to miss my chance to go to Iraq, so I went active duty, went to Iraq, and my own healing process opened me up to all these truths. I wasn't looking for all these truths. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not a communist or anything like that. I'm about the sovereignty of man.
Right.
Each individual man and woman through their own personal sovereignty. And I've dedicated the rest of my life to having my family but my passion, my mission is to giving people back their sovereignty. And that's helping them break free of the fear of death. And that's not saying to welcome death or anything like that, but not be shackled by the fear of death.
Yeah. Freaking awesome, man. I mean, I only have, so I'm 11 minutes from the hour. My question is, do we have a little bit more time with you after we take a break in 9 minutes, or at exactly, well, my time it'd be mid 1 o'clock in the morning, but we take a break in 10 minutes for 5 minutes, and then we come back. Do you have a little bit more time, or do you have to? I know you got baby and stuff. So
No, I'm
if
I'm
you need
here.
to, okay,
I'm here,
cool,
man. Everybody's
cool.
asleep. Like
All
I
right,
got a coffee here. We could take some questions if you want to take questions from the chat
yeah,
room or wherever, man. Like
that's
I'm
actually what I was
down.
gonna say. So chat, I think I have one more question to ask, but when we come back from the break, chat, wait until we come back from the break. Please hear me out. All caps. When we come back from the break, post your questions in all caps, and I'll ask Drew, and we can have a really good discussion about what you want to know. Because honestly, I feel like the chat needs to ask some questions. And Kiara actually has a question. Kiara, by the way, is one of the beloved members of the team, and one of the beloved members of the chat. Everybody loves Kiara. Everybody loves Kiara. She says, need to decalcify the pineal gland, flowing the natural DMT in the brain. Is that too big of a question to ask now, or is it okay to ask that question before the break and get an answer about it within 10 minutes, 9 minutes?
I'm not sure if it's a question. I don't know if she's making a statement.
So let me
We
say,
could,
I don't know about I don't understand the pineal gland situation or DMT.
okay, so
So,
pineal gland is our third eye. We
okay.
have it's our well, a lot of people believe that's how we see spiritually. That's where we see the vision through. So, like if we're in an ayahuasca ceremony, we're not actually seeing a vision through our two eyes. Our eyes are closed and we're seeing in our mind's eye. Like, so this is where we see dreams through, and that's where a lot of people believe we see dreams
All right.
through. Our
Yeah.
body produces DMT. It stores it in the lungs, stores it in the brain. It gets released when we have high influxes of adrenaline. So when we get close to dying or something like that, we will release this naturally produced DMT. So every single one of us is breaking like a federal law, like as we sit here. We contain DMT whether we've drank ayahuasca or not, because our body makes it. It's the same. It's the same molecule for NN dimethyltryptamine that's in ayahuasca, and that's why people with trauma and everything, these ceremonies, practices, meditations, cold plunges, whatever, breath work, whether it be with psychedelics or not, are really practices helping decalcify the brain, the pineal gland, so it can pick up vibrations from much more in tune frequencies
Hmm.
and allow us to understand truths a little more, have dream spaces, and have more detailed visions in ceremonies.
People are making fun of my pronunciation of the pineal gland.
the,
You know what,
the,
chat?
pi-
The
this is
pineal.
the pineal gland. The pineal gland is that might be on the other end of the property, man.
You look what you've done, chat. I just got roasted. All right. So that's fantastic. All right. So I get it. Pineal gland. I've heard of this before, and I've heard about the DMT and like how there's this special effect that it has on like our abilities, our psychic abilities, our supernatural abilities, or whatever. But also, most importantly, what you're meant, like this vision. That's my most interesting, curiosity is about the idea of having visions, being connected to like another realm. And also, I've heard of people taking substances that called DMT. I think it's called DMT, an actual substance where you can literally talk to beings, and it's consistent among people who do it. It's not like everybody has their own experience. There's an actual like type of beings you can communicate with. What the freak, man?
Some of the oldest mystery schools we're starting to see now, that especially proof from Egypt, things like that. Psychedelics were a huge part of the old mystery schools, and I think this is why the psychedelic renaissance right now is becoming, it's slowly starting. Here in Colorado, where we legalized mushrooms the first of the year, things like that. I was just in a head
Yeah.
shop the other day. They had mushrooms in the head shop, so the psychedelic renaissance is here, but I think we're going through another process. And yeah, before we go on break,
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave the chat room with a little nugget and
Yeah.
see what happens. How many people in the chat room have some type of connection to Egypt, whether it be dreams, memories, I connections to Osiris, Isis, or Horus. Let's just see what happens after we come back from
Okay,
break.
I'm good. Listen. This is where I get educated. These are not. There's a lot of topics, right? Like with SOR that I'm unfamiliar with. Familiar with. I'm a UFO guy. UFOs history, like the nuts and bolts. They call me the nuts and bolts guy. I have my experiences. We've talked about that. By the way, my first experience happened after my father passed away. Ironically, when you mentioned about
Mhm.
tragedy and I didn't even know what to make of that, to be honest. I don't know what to make of that. But it was after my father died. Ironically, I was looking for answers, and then I didn't think about it because I didn't connect the two. But recently, and I feel like this is like a what do you call, like a confirmation? Like this is the third time I've heard about this, about like, hey, tragedy experience, like something big in your life, and experience happens. I'd never put those together until recently, and you're talking about it again today through this conversation. So now I wonder
The
why, though.
universe whispers. The universe whispers, man.
That was
Can
more
you hear
like
the
a
whis? Can
that
you
was
hear the
more like
whisper?
baby powder and yeah.
Yeah,
I
man.
don't think that was a whisper, my guy.
Yeah,
That was a little bit more intense than a whisper.
yeah,
And it was transformative. I'll be honest with you, it did I don't think positively about the phenomenon, to be honest. But
yeah.
when we come back, I don't want to get too far into some of that because we got only 4 minutes here. I want to talk about, so I'm saving some people are asking questions. Guys, all caps, okay, ladies and gentlemen, put this in all caps. Stop mentioning, you know what, guys. My gosh, there is some sensitivity in the chat. You know that we can't talk about that stuff. My goodness, I would love to talk about everything, but there are some people that get really offended by religion, so we got to be careful about certain things we talk about, um
Yeah, yeah.
so, but yeah, to me, I do want to know about this spiritual, the esoteric, the the unexplored areas of, like, you're talking about Native American traditions and how they talk about the star people. I've heard about the star people and the fact that they just accept them as people. Like they call them star people, not star beings, not star monsters, not star creatures. They call them star people, which means they think they're like us. They see them as us. And I
Yeah, I
find that
mean,
extremely interesting.
lots of times a star family. Like
Hmm.
it's not they. It's like a cousin, and really it's recognizing, uh, like, it. We're getting into it when we get back. The Fibonacci sequence is found. I've been to so many different petroglyph sites across the United States. Chaco Canyon, uh, ones in California, uh, Pet Night Canyon here in Colorado. What I found in all of them,
Yeah.
some lots of them in New Mexico, is the circle. There's the circle is a common thing that's found in
Mhm,
multiple different petroglyph sites, and
mhm,
that's showing the swirl of creation, and showing the swirl of time.
mhm.
And that's how, if you look at a pendulum, how it moves, it's showing the Fibonacci sequence when a pendulum moves on your hand. And that's the energy, that's the life forces that we're
You
all
got me looking at my
sharing.
hands. I'm looking at my hands like, am I here? Am I real right now?
Well,
Is this
look
that
look
is
look
interesting.
the meridian points and the
Mhm.
connection to Jesus,
Yeah,
how
yeah.
why he was crucified the way he was. Think about it. He was crucified through his meridian points in his hands,
Yeah.
and his feet, and a crown is around his pineal gland, covering
There
up
are
his third
yeah,
eye.
there are so many connections between all of these different things. Dude, this is
Yeah,
okay. All right, let's not. I don't want to have a mind blown moment yet, not yet, because I feel like there's going to be more coming back. So we're going to go on
yeah,
break, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go on break. When we come back, we're going to ask Drew some more questions, but I'm going to get them from you because chat. I guarantee you're more knowledgeable about all of this than I am. So I think it's important that we get good questions that people, I think, really want to ask. So when we come back, prepare your questions. You know that I'm not going to pull them during the break. Ask your questions in all caps. If you do not ask them in all caps, I might not see it. So please do that. And we're going to be right back right after a 5-minute break right now. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I'm your host, Marquise, accompanied by our guest, Drew Bankey. I want to welcome everyone back listening in on the digital side. We welcome back our YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitch viewers. And don't forget, you can check out our archives. They are free at youtube.com, / Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out the Bumblefoot. So let's talk about some things. I got some questions. Luckily, y'all are lucky that I did do what I said I wouldn't do, and that is pull questions during the break. I did, because there were some good questions and I didn't want to miss them. All right, you guys did it to me anyway. See how much you guys love me. Thank you so much, Maggie M10, for the super sticker. So there's a couple of questions, a couple of them. I'm pulling all of them right now before I forget. All right. So here's one. First question is, can humans save their biosphere?
Save our biosphere.
I'm assuming they're talking about just like the planet, like we're destroying it right now. And if we keep pushing with the talk, the pollution and all that stuff like that, we're never going to reach any kind of evolution if we're just going to destroy all life as we know it.
I see it. I don't see it like that. The way I see it as we're in a cycle. We're in a cycle of forgetfulness, and we're starting to go into this renaissance of remembrance. And I don't see it like that. And I've actually. I was thinking about this the other day. It's funny that this question actually come up, because I was thinking about this the other day, and because I went into a ceremony with the medicine with ayahuasca. It's very deep in ceremony. I got done with my personal work, whatever I had in there, and I kind of was communing with the spirit of ayahuasca, which is, I believe, it's the spirit of Mother Earth. And I asked her, I was like, what are we supposed to do about all this pollution? What are we supposed to do about all this trash? Like, even if you're spiritual, like, you're still like throwing away wrappers, you're still producing trash. What are we supposed to do? Right. She's like, don't worry about it. She's like, don't erase your mistakes because they're going to be red flags for you to find later, and red flags for you to find and to keep you from making mistakes in the future. That's the trash that, I'm not saying like go and pollute the earth and make as much trash as you want. It's important to try to become more self-sufficient. Like I'm on a homestead in southern Colorado. We got solar out here. We have garden. We have horses. Are
you allowed to collect your own rainwater?
Yeah, here in Colorado you are, especially where we're at. But there's places that you can't do that, and it's attack. Those things like that, I feel, are attacks against our sovereign rights as human beings, and like just beings in general.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. And I do hope that I hope, again, we'll talk about my differing perspective of, I'm not as hopeful as you are. Trust me, the chat eats me alive for that. We go back and forth all the time. So there's some really good questions here, man. And Kara, I got you. Thank you for that. So the next question is, and I think it's important to ask, have you seen a UFO?
Several, yeah.
Several. Let's talk about it, man. Come on. Spill the beans, brother.
Oh man. You want to talk about face-to-face contact or
yeah, what do you mean? Do I want to talk about face-to-face contact? Yes.
Or lights in the sky. Like,
look, I've seen the show's called Spaced Out Radio. Let's get spaced out, man. Come on.
So, Chaco Canyon in 2018, me and my wife were there at the beginning. We were there celebrating our anniversary. So it was February, beginning of the year, and we went to Chaco Canyon, which is New Mexico. It's a huge petroglyph site, and a lot of people, I've come to find out now more about it since I was there and all this happened. I really delved deep into Chaco Canyon, but it seems like there was some type of communication going on there, like through the structures, how the structures are laid out in Chaco Canyon, the kivas. I think there's definitely a lot of evidence that and verbal evidence that's been passed down about these ceremonies that happen in Chaco Canyon. Anyway, me and my wife celebrating our anniversary. We went there exploring the petroglyphs, walking the canyon, spent hours there. At the end before we left, I started singing a Native American prayer song to the canyon, just saying thank you for being there, in appreciation for the day, not for us not getting hurt, when twisting an ankle or anything like that, and just basically thank you just for the beauty of it. Left there, went back to a town, Cortez, Colorado, which is about an hour, a little bit over an hour away from Chaco Canyon. We had a B&B there. We got some dinner, ate, went to bed. I woke up in the middle of the night, my ears ringing, uh, two different tones in from side to side in my ears, and
Oh, wow.
you know, ringing in the ears. That's a huge thing with the
Yeah.
ascension, and
Yep.
contact is a big thing, and that goes back to the frequency vibration conversation earlier. But anyways, went to walk outside, have some tobacco, and at that time did smoke tobacco. Went outside to have a cigarette,
Mm.
and, walked out on the back deck of this B&B, and I'm standing there on the deck, and as soon as I took 2 or 3 steps out the door on this deck, and those 2 or 3 steps, like, my body were just, like, started vibrating, like, and I felt like I was about to get sick. I thought I was, vibrating from about to being sick. So I leaned forward, I coughed a little bit and coughed up some phlegm and spit it into the grass. And as I leaned forward, at a corner of my eye, I seen the shadows of 2 feet, like, beside me, like,
Hmm.
standing right beside me, about 2 feet away from me. And, I flicked the cigarette into the yard. I turned, and it all, like, it felt like it took, like, seconds, but it all just happened, like, a split second. I just turned, and there was a shadow of myself there, and I actually looked behind me for a street light or something, like a light behind me, like, sh
Yeah.
to there was no lights behind me, it was completely dark. I turned back around, and as I turned back around, I saw its I saw this, like, shadow, the same size as me, and just standing there. I saw its eyes, and it started to open its eyes, and
Hmm.
this thing started to open up. I seen, like, just, like, this bright light start coming out, and as it opened up, I started seeing stars, and it's hard to explain, but, like, I guess my spirit left my body and went into its eyes, and I was just flying through the universe, like, I was going through galaxy upon galaxy. I was going past planets I've never seen before, and
Wow.
it's going and going and going. And I I just popped back into my body, and, like, I'm standing there staring at this being. It's still got its eyes open. I see all the stars, and I go into, like, panic mode. I go running inside. I lock the door. I wake up my wife. I'm pacing around the living room of this place, and it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. I finally get, enough courage to go look out the back window. I, like, peek out the back window. I'm thinking to myself, man, I just locked the door, but, like, I'm realizing what I just had an encounter with, and I'm just, like, losing it, man. And things calm down, and after a while, maybe an hour or so, I end up taking a shower, and finally calm down enough and lay down. I end up going to sleep. And next day I'm talking about it, and goes on for a couple days. Like, this is all I can talk about. It slowly, like, subsides over a couple weeks or so.
Hmm.
It's about 2 weeks after it, I have this dream where I'm standing on the back deck, and I see my physical self walk out, with a lit cigarette, cough, and lean forward. And I go through this whole experience, but from the other perspective in this dream. And that's when this whole experience really made sense to me. Like, I I really understand. I really understood
Yeah.
the belief of star family, star brothers. It all made sense to me in that moment. Like, So I understand. I
Yeah.
really understood multidimensionality. Like multidimensionality and bilocation
Yeah.
became very, very clear to me because in that moment, and it wasn't so much the face to face contact; it was the dream afterwards.
You have like that was an extremely vivid experience you described. I appreciate that. Clearly, it stuck to you
I,
because you know.
I'll be right back. I gotta grab a tissue.
Yeah, no
It's
problem,
right
man.
here.
No problem. No problem. No
I'm
problem.
right here. I'm right here. You can talk.
No, you're good. So yeah, to me, the fact that the detailed description is what makes me think about my experience. I look back and think about the fact that like I remember the little things, what I thought, what I felt, what I was doing, like my body, all that stuff like that. I remember those things. But one question that people ask me all the time that frustrates me because I don't remember is what did it smell like? And I don't understand why that question is always asked, but I don't remember what it smelled like. It doesn't even cross my mind to think about the smell.
What does it
So just
smell
because
like?
people, yeah, that's right. I don't know why people ask me that, but they always ask me, what did it smell like? I don't remember. Does that do you think that's something that do you remember what it smelled? I mean, I don't.
No, I don't. You know, I know there's a big connection, like to the olfactory senses and spirituality. You know, like people say that they have in experiences with Saint Michael or
Yeah,
Jesus or something like that. Their smell a certain, a certain scent or whatever, and things like that. But I've never really I've never really experienced anything like that.
mm,
I guess the closest thing that I can say I've experienced that with my mom. My mom passed away in 2005,
mm,
and I have smelt her. She was a RN nurse,
mm.
amazing woman, but she also sold Avon. So she had this certain
That's
like
cool.
perfume that they don't even make anymore, like, and sometimes I just get a whiff of that, and
Yeah,
that's about as far as smells, that's about the only thing I can say. Like
yeah.
when I had the experience with Bigfoot, that was a
Oh yeah, we're gonna
very
talk
distinct
about that. We're gonna
that was a
talk about
very distinct smell.
that.
This
Well,
the weird thing about that, the same thing happened, dude. Like I had the experience with Bigfoot in the Uwhippie ceremony, and a couple weeks later I had a dream. I was same experience but from the other perspective, and understood that Sasquatch is no different than Bigfoot and no different than
yeah,
us. It's all in this huge connection. And Egypt, like, uh, you know, one thing I ask on my podcast, every single guest, why do you think that Egypt is a pivot point for this ascension process that we're going through right now?
right, right.
My
Yep.
my answer is I think all of us alive right now have lived through Egypt at one time. The whole Egypt thing, the mystery schools, all those spiritual teachings, and all that, all those technologies and everything that went on for a long, long time. So I think that we're going through that same process now, but without the pyramids.
Mm.
And we're just doing a replay, but without the pyramids.
Yeah, I think I do find Egypt, and Kira mentioned some things earlier about Egypt. Again, these are things that like I have to learn a lot. I understand like Zacharias Sitchin, for example, the Sumerians and stuff like that. I've learned about some of that stuff. We've all learned about that. If you watch Ancient Aliens, you know about that. I watch Ancient Aliens, so I know about the whole all the monoliths and all the pyramids and who built them and how they were built and what could the possibilities be, all the precision and we get that. And there's clearly something that is connected to that place, energetically and all that stuff. But in terms of reincarnation, which we can get into that as well if there's enough time, because I only have until another 40 minutes with you here. But I want to ask these questions, and then we'll get to this idea of reincarnation, which I think is really important too. Um, there's the question that I have was asked by Derek Galloway. Do you agree with Jason Brechar's of I don't know what that is, and thoughts? I don't even know what he's talking about. I don't know what any of that is.
I don't know what that means. The only
Yeah.
the Phoenix effect. I have no idea, man. Like, um, I don't know. I'm not familiar with his work.
Yeah, I don't. Oh, there's a person. So Jason Brachar's of Archaics, I guess Archaics. I don't know. Derek, elaborate, my brother. Kira asked this question that I'm going to say. Kira asked the question: what is our soul? You wait a minute. Did you already? I didn't pull this, Kira. Kira, I did not. Only did I not pull this question up, I didn't ask him. I didn't ask him. Are we having a moment here? I didn't even ask you. What the freak, man? All right, I'm a little.
You know, if you want to like digging into Egypt, like I didn't start down the Egypt path. Like I had a spontaneous channeling with Osiris, and this is before knowing who Osiris was. Like I've never even heard this name before until it come out of my mouth, and this was spontaneous channeling without any medicine or anything. Literally, we were driving back from California, me and my wife, and I just got done driving for like 4 or 5 hours, dead tired, got in the passenger seat, and within about 15, 20 minutes of being in the passenger seat, I tried to fall asleep, and I started speaking, and for the next hour and a half, like Osiris spoke through me, and
Hmm.
believe it what you want, I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
there, like it affected me, like I
yeah.
know how it sounds, but it it was I was even questioning it, of what if it was real or not. And um this being spoken at the end, it said his name was Osiris.
Hmm.
And we were we were living in we went back to Florida. We were on our way from California to Florida driving cross country. This whole ride and this channeling happened like maybe I don't know, Nevada or something like that, like right after California. So the rest, like another 2 days of driving or so, I'm just like going nuts, like talking to my wife,
Yeah.
like, what the hell is going on? And I might need to like lock myself up, all this stuff. Like I feel like I'm going crazy.
Oh,
And because I'm looking up Osiris, like I'm like, oh my God, Osiris is a real person. Like everything I was saying as Osiris, I started like fact checking it.
yeah.
By Googling it, during this ride. We get to Florida and we get to a thrift store, and me and my wife are big thrifters, so we pop in a thrift store, and we're walking around, and I find this Buddha head, like as we right as we walk in. So I like grab it and walk around with this like Buddha head. And I, so I just go to like the shoe section. I'm standing there in the shoe section, and my ears are just like ringing like out of control. Like I can't even hear anything. My wife's like coming down the aisle, and she's saying my name, and I can just hear her like real muffled.
Yeah.
Just this ringing is like taking over my life. And I drop something, and as I pick it up, I'm standing up. I see these shoes. They say Osiris, Osiris. It's like Osiris. I didn't even know this. I'm not a skater, but they make skating shoes made, and they say Osiris on the back of them. So
Mm.
in green lettering, it says Osiris, Osiris at eye level. And I almost dropped this like
Yeah.
cement, this like plaster Buddha head that's under my arm. And it's like it just the connection. Then I started looking into Egypt, and having dreams more and more about Egypt, both in medicine ceremonies and not, just lucid dreaming. But our connection, like the three pyramids in Egypt connecting to Orion's belt, Orion's belt being
Yeah. Yeah.
the home to Osiris,
Yeah.
like those connections are left little trinkets and little breadcrumbs. I think we left for ourselves. Again, I think Egypt has so many breadcrumbs there, from the hieroglyphs to the placement of the pyramids, connecting with star alignments and everything, and connecting to ancient gods. I think an ascension process was going on there, and I think something didn't happen the way it was supposed to in Egypt. And I think this is our chance to redo it
Hmm.
in a different way. And I think that's the soul connection.
And that's hence the cyclical nature of life, of these oh my gosh, what do you call it? It was a type of event. You called it. Hold on one second, so that I don't mess this up. You called it. Oh my gosh. I'll find it anyway. But there is a word that you used that I thought it was really. I think it was telling, that had to do with the cyclical nature of something, and you called it. Oh my gosh. Why can't I? Why now all of a sudden it's
The
gone? You know what?
the swirl, the Fibonacci sequence.
Yeah. Okay, so the
Look,
circle.
so this is anyone that's messed with pendulums.
Yeah.
Like, you get a pendulum out right now, and just you get anything on a string. You could get a beer tab on a string and use it as a pendulum. Hold it over the middle of your hand and slow your breath down. Take a few breaths, go into a meditation or whatever you got to do to calm down. Watch what happens. That's why I don't ever show. I do this practice when I go to conferences or speak in person a lot. I do this exercise where I have a couple pendulums with me, put it in people's hands, and let them see the energy that's coming out of their meridian points in their hands. This is where Reiki healers work. This is not just because you can't see the energy coming off your hands doesn't mean it's not there. And what I use in this argument a lot, I haven't really got in this argument a lot with people, but
Yeah.
dogs can hear a frequency that we can't. Does that mean the frequency is not there just because we can't hear it? No, it's
Yeah.
just out. It's just out of this small window that we can sense with our 5 senses, 6 senses, however many senses you want to claim. We are only experiencing a small frequency of that.
Yeah.
There's been times when I've come out of ayahuasca ceremonies and I was at a friend's house and they were training their dog, and the dog, I could hear their dog whistle collar, like the beep. Because I just got out of ayahuasca ceremony like less than
That's
24
wild.
hours before that.
Yeah. That's
And
wild.
they kept hitting it. I'm like, man, you guys hear that? Like, what is that? And they couldn't believe it. And and that was a big lesson for me too. Like, we can open up to different frequencies, and not only on a spiritual level, but on a physical level as well.
Do you? This makes me wonder about by the way, Derek Galloway mentioned that he said it was about simulation theory. That's what he was talking about. But real quick before we get into that, I want to ask you. You said that you don't think these beings are from like another place. You think that they're from just here, this physical realm. My thinking is like, just like frequencies, right? There's like beings that exist right here. You just have to turn the dial, adjust the frequency, and then you could see them or experience them. Is that what you kind of see? How you see the alien, whatever you want to call them, star people?
I agree. Yeah, I think both are true. I don't think that there's not physical beings from other planets flying crafts. I don't think these crafts are constructed and made the way that we understand structure and the way things work. I think they're made in different ways, and I really believe that they're made in different ways that we really can't. It's hard for us to even comprehend how these crafts are made. Let's just say the Roswell incident, for example. Like, it's made out of a material that folds down. It's kind of like aluminum foil and goes back into shape. And just goes back to its original shape somehow, and it's almost weightless. That's what the material from Roswell was described as. Things like that is hard. It's that construct and how things are made is outside of our realm of understanding at this point in our existence.
Yeah. Well,
I believe
I
that's
think
that's what I believe as far
I
as
agree.
the nuts.
No, I agree with you.
The nuts and
I agree
bolts
with you.
thing.
No, I completely agree. I think there's a bizarre. We couldn't even imagine. Like, for example, let's just pretend that like there's a hive queen of that looks like a flying saucer, and it's literally a being, but it's a saucer, and it just births, births through materialization more craft. We would be like, how in the world is that possible? But it's just a natural process of and I'm just hypothetical, random, arbitrary
Yeah, no.
example. But I feel like whatever it is, we would be like, what? how could you do that? Like, that's how I feel like we would be if we knew how they're made. Because even scientists are like, we don't even know how they're able to do that. Like, how are they making these things? The ones that are studying this phenomena. So to your point, I'm 100% agree with you.
If we go back 200 years, let's just say 200 years, if we go back in time, me and you, and we go
Yeah.
back 200 years in the Old West, and we walk up to someone, we pull out a phone that's somehow still connected to Wi-Fi and everything. I don't want to get into that whole storyline, but we're just going to say our phones are still connected to Wi-Fi and all that.
Yeah.
And we pull up and can access all this information through Google. This is, it would be hard to understand, and we would look like aliens to them.
True.
So take this 2 million years, 2 billion years, 2 trillion years, like whatever thing you want to subscribe to in a linear timeline type of scenario.
Yeah.
Take it as far as you want to, and they come back through a time portal or something like that. And what would they look like to us? It would be unimaginable. And we're just talking about 200 years.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So take the storyline, like the time is not is not linear, and let's just say 1 million years from now we figure out how to time travel and portal back through consciousness or whatever, and we're coming back to see ourselves. We might call ourselves aliens at that point.
You just made me think of, like, what if they hit a singularity? We count our years like we're 2023 right now. What if they're 2000 what if in their year 2087 they hit a singularity, and now they're like the year 40,064? Like, can you imagine if they hit their singularity that long ago? Where could they? We're talking godlike to us. I mentioned this before. Like, it's like we think that their technology is like godlike, and so yeah. To your point, man. By the way, I want to bring up this thing because I feel like Christine. First of all, I feel disrespected. Let me tell you why. All right, and this is we can't have this. You understand, Christine? You got to get with the program. First of all, pineapples and mushrooms on pizza is the best freaking pizza you could possibly have. Fight me, bro. That's all I gotta say about that. I don't know what Christine is talking about, man.
Dude, I'm just saying, I eat breakfast any time of the day or night. Like every time I'm on with Dave, like we have this conversation about breakfast and when it's appropriate to eat it and everything. Yeah. I think that, in my world, there's no rules on that. Like I can have pancakes whenever the hell I want.
Hey, I hear you. I can have pizza whenever I want. Well, not anymore, but I used to be able to. Before I got old and can't eat anything anymore. All right, so got a good question from Brown Dwarf. By the way, Brown Dwarf, dread life, my brother. Brown Dwarf has dreads too, and he wants to know, will you ever grow your dreads back?
No,
I thought they were cool too. It's a lot of
I can't do it. Cool I just finally burned them the other day, man. Like I've had them for a long time.
You should have seen him today. He's asking for my dreads all the time. He's like, send me a dread.
Dude, I was gonna do a raffle for him. But I'm not quite famous enough. But I was gonna hold on to him until I got a little more famous. But
you never know, man. You could have.
I just gave up.
I want to be a millionaire so freaking bad. Sell all of my dreads I ever had. All right, so the next question. Ridiculous. What are your feelings on the Georgia Guidestones? That's from Loch Nessa, aka Lovey Love. Lovey Love, what's up? Lovey Love.
I think there was a lot of truth in. I think there was a lot of truth in them. I think that there was a lot of. I think it was a mixture of truth and falsehood in all that. Why it was taken down,
yeah,
man, who knows? But I believe everything is connected. Everything that we're seeing now, like, especially in the medicine community, people that work with medicine very intently, they all see like this kind of situation happening right now, and it's really a unfolding. It's a beautiful unfolding that's happening right now on
Yeah.
so many different levels. Yeah, but I see that as all part of a bigger picture. What the message is in particular, I can't say. I
Mm,
haven't really delved into it that much. But
mm,
there's a lot of things that's happened. The going back to the Osiris thing. Osiris, Isis is the wife of Osiris. So when I had this channeling within a day or two, um, is when the Cathedral of Notre Dame burnt, which is supposed to be the temple of Isis. Is supposed to be one of the temples of Isis is supposed to be under the Temple of Notre Dame burnt a few
right.
years ago.
Mm,
And so that all happened all at the same time, and the thing at the thrift store with the Osiris shoes. So you know,
mm.
I I want everyone to like start looking at these synchronicities and stop looking at them as just happenstance.
Yeah.
If you're seeing 1111 and 777 and you're waking up at one in between 1 and 3 in the morning every night and
Mm,
feel a call to go outside, look at the stars, and if your ears ringing and you notice it's going back and forth from the left or the right ear, and you're seeing things, like stop like writing them off and stop letting the indoctrination of our consciousness that's been told to us and shunned for so long, like stop denying like what is the truth. And that's,
yeah.
if there's anything that comes out of this whole interview, like I want that to come out, like take your power back. We're all shamans, we're all medicine people, we all have this connection to this consciousness, and I think that we all need to tap back into it and allow ourselves to be that again.
Yeah, just so you know, brother, we're gonna get a lot more out of this than just that. I think that just again, what I love about talking to people like you is that you taking me out of that part of my mind that's like tense, the tense. Oh, I'm always trying to, this is more like an internal conversation. Like I'm looking within myself as we're talking about these things, and it honestly, it's a relief to be totally honest with you. This has been one of the most awesome but also most stressful weeks. But this moment is like I feel like I can breathe during this conversation. That's how I feel. So I think we're gonna get a lot more out of it than just that. I think we're gonna get a lot more out of it than just that, especially when you're talking about. Well, I mean, I like that you're talking about looking at the connections between some of these synchronicities, right? You're talking about synchronicities. Don't ignore them. But you also mention about in my opinion, I find it important to think about the traditions of like, or the cultures of Native Americans who see the star people as us. And they talk about the history. This is what resonates with me. The history of like a time when the trees towered above the clouds and there were people that were 20 plus feet tall, and they coexisted with us, which means that they're still somewhat us, but they're also different because the atmosphere was different and the environment was different. The oxygen level was different, right? Totally fascinating to me. Fascinating to me. And then you talk about your experiences and about, first of all, when I think about traveling through the stars with this, when you've seen this being out back, my first thought was it's almost like they were trying to show you, look what you are,
Yeah,
right?
that's
That's
the
what I
over
don't.
that's the only answer that's you ever get, is like, really, you I've come out I come out of that experience actually from the dream, and I had a moment of oneness without medicine or anything. I had
Yeah.
a mystical experience where I kind of went to the throne room, what some people call it, or went to source and become
Mm,
source for a moment. And that's where I realized like everything was perfect. Like, I sat in the throne room, and when I was in the throne room, I realized that the reason that this chair is always empty is because someone comes, sits in it, realizes there's nothing to do, that everything is perfect, and that time doesn't stop, that all you can do is keep experiencing, so you go back into the experience.
mm.
That's why the throne in the throne room is always empty, dude.
I
And that
used to do this. Uh, Sorry, I apologize. Go ahead. Finish.
Go
I
ahead.
didn't know you.
No, go ahead.
I used to do a meditation. I was taught this where I would be in this beautiful place, man. I love bioluminescence, so I added that element. I used to do visualizations and meditations together. And I remember there would be like this river, beautiful, or stream, and I would have to cross the stream and walk up to this throne. But there were two thrones. There was a male and female, or a masculine, feminine throne, and sitting on that throne were two, whatever I perceived as the persona, the encapsulation of like male and female. Like what do I feel as male and female? But there was something about it. Wasn't like man. It was more like the idea of leadership,
Mhm.
of concern for those that you care for. And the woman was, of course, the tender, nurturing and loving, but also intelligence. And so I used to sit before that throne that the stream had come from, and that I crossed to get there, and it was gorgeous all around me. This beautiful, bioluminescent garden-like place. And I would just sit, and they would teach me, but they would say nothing. There would be no words. I have no
Right.
idea what I learned from that.
How much time we got? How deep can we go? All right, okay.
We got 20 minutes, brother. What's up?
Okay,
Let's
so
go.
the reason a Merkaba is made out of triangles.
Yeah.
The reason the triangle is sacred, the reason the number 3 is sacred, goes back to Vedic, and the original teachings of creation, and those lie in the energies of creation being masculine energy
Mhm.
and feminine energy, and then source. So I went to a couple, I think back in 2001, I went up to Gaia, and Greer was up there doing some CE5 contact teachings. I didn't really get a whole lot out of it, other than anything new out of it, other than
Right.
I realized this guy has had some really deep experiences just by
Right.
what he's talking about.
Yep.
But talking about some of the mantras that he uses, look up, if you can look up his triangle logo, the ESETI triangle logo, and part of the mantra of his CE5 connection, when he's praying to the puja, is an old Vedic mantra, and the words go my na ma.
Hmm.
My is the masculine, na is the feminine. My na ma, my na ma. No, my is the source. Na is the feminine, and ma. Anyways, that triangle, my na ma, is a Vedic mantra that talks about source, masculine, feminine, source,
Mhm.
masculine, feminine. So that's why a triangle, there's source, and from out of there we connect on two different energy paths, masculine and feminine, and
Mhm.
that's how creation's made. After that, and then there's a creation story I talk about in my book that was given to me in meditation. It kind of goes along with a lot of other spiritual teachings and stuff. It's kind of the same message, just in different words, but it
Mhm.
talks about how Source created the masculine and feminine energy, and from there it created and then the creation created itself from there. But right now, like, we're going through a time when we have to step out of this identifying as either masculine or feminine. That's why you're
Mhm.
seeing a lot of uh things along the sexual, people having sex changes and things like that. I think that goes a lot. I think it's more of a spiritual thing that's happened on a much deeper level,
Mhm.
where we're going through this thing where the macho ness is not, we're not allowed to be like this macho man anymore, and you can't be a prissy woman anymore. It has to be this balance of coherence between the energies, even within ourself.
Mhm.
I think this balance starts within ourself, really, and it's balancing. it's it's being able to be compassionate. It's kind of goes back what we were just talking about, being a leader, being uh and having people rely on you in that sense, but also being compassionate and being able to cry and being that warrior at the same time, you know. And
Yeah.
I think that acceptance is being more widespread than it was, you know, when I was, you know, grew up in the 80s and things like that, and it was a totally different time period. And I just see a shift now that we're going through as a whole, where we're allowed to be compassionate men and strong, self-aware women, you know.
Fantastic, man. I mean, again, there are major changes happening globally, and there is a movement now, and you always wonder, like, everybody doesn't. Again, I think that all you're saying reminds me of the idea of what you said is synchronicity. There are in my mind. I just keep thinking, oh my gosh, things are aligning. Like there's a connectedness, an alignment that's happening all the time. We're just not looking at how it's all connected. We're ignoring the connection and looking at everything separate from everything else.
That's you know, this was one of the aha moments from one of my first ayahuasca ceremonies that I can remember. Like one of the biggest lessons I could remember. I asked, like, because I was in the spiritual space, like crying. I was crying to ayahuasca. I'm like, oh, why me? Like, why'd I come? You know, why'd I have to go through all this? Why was I adopted? I was adopted at 5 days old. Why was I adopted? Why did I, you know, and my parents didn't tell me till I was 18. Why did it ruin my relationship with everyone I knew? You know, I kept, you know, building this storyline of why I was this victim. And she goes, do you think if any of those experiences didn't happen, do you think me and you would be talking right now? And in that moment, I found gratitude for all those experiences, and I found the perfection in all those moments, because it led me to speaking with a divine spirit that I knew was a divine spirit. And that's how, you know, I found it made everything make sense. Even the worst shit in my life, it led me to speak with her in that moment. And then she showed me this like vision where it's kind of like this board. It had all these little dots, and I was this line like going through this dots. And at the end of the line, it was like Plinko. Like you ever seen like a Wheel of Fortune or whatever, or Plinko, and like the thing goes down, it falls all the way down and goes into one spot. That's what it was like. But at the end, it all led to ayahuasca. Like every single path led to to that, not just ayahuasca, but the divine spirit, the divine feminine spirit. And that's what I recognize ayahuasca as now. That's why I recognize the spirit of Mother Earth as now. It all is the divine feminine spirit of creation. And there's a divine masculine spirit of creation, which is the sun.
So what do you think death is?
Death? Well, I've had a near-death experience, wrote about that. Death is nothing, man. It's it's crazy when it happens, because you think like you have this whole thing written out of what's going to happen. You're going to go through this tunnel, you're going to go to heaven, all this stuff. I did experience a tunnel, but it was a deep knowing that there was no stop. Like I was in this space, I was given a choice. I could continue going, and I would just go. I would wake up in a womb or being birthed or whatever, and just starting this whole thing all over again. Or I could go back with the remembrance of what I just saw. And I decided to come back with that remembrance. And so I was in 2019, I was sundancing, going through a Native American ceremony where I fasted without food and water, dancing sun up to sundown, had a sweat lodge in the morning and afternoon each day. Going strong the first day, the second day, and I write about this in detail in my books if you want to, and I've talked about it tons on other podcasts.
Let me, like if you don't have the book, because I didn't set the show up, Dave did, but he probably has your stuff. But if you could send that to me after the show, I can post it in the description so people have that information.
Yeah, both of them are on Amazon. You can look them up through my name, Drew Bankey, last name Bankey.
I got you already. I'm following you on Amazon, actually, just so you know.
Cool.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, but so the second day of this ceremony, and this
Mhm.
is without food and water, like a complete fast for the whole 4 days. I've done the ceremonies 2017, 2018. I did the ceremony. Didn't have any, medical problems during that time. Lost a lot of weight during it, and had my experiences and whatnot. So 2019 comes along. The second day, I come, I basically pass out in the sweat lodge, the first sweat lodge in the morning. Uh, I fall out of the sweat lodge. I have to set out the first round, and I'm already pierced, so I have piercings like in my chest, so I have two elk bone piercings in my chest, and they're like cut into the flesh and everything, tied to a tree, and that's part of the ceremony as well. Sundance ceremony, I've talked about it tons. You could Google it and look it up more to get more details about it. But the important thing was I had to remove these. Um, it come to the point where the elders talked to me, the chiefs talked to me, and they said, let's you're gonna have to go get something to eat. You're gonna have to like stop the ceremony. It's getting dangerous for you, and all this other stuff. And I agreed to it, but I had these piercings in my chest, and so to get them out, they said we can just cut them out. The skin's dead on top there, just fall out. You probably won't even feel it. And something told me right away, like, no, I came here to have them broke out. And they said, do you have anyone in mind? And right away, I knew it was supposed to be these two chiefs that did it. And so they hooked some ropes up to me. We went into the ceremony area. It was like a break time, so all the other sun dancers were resting and everything. So it was just me and the two chiefs out there, and they they pulled. There's more to the story, but they pulled them. Basically, they didn't. I didn't break. They didn't break out. I actually ripped. So two holes ripped in my chest. The pegs are still in there. Rope still attached to me. I fell to the ground. Blood's pouring out on the ground. Um, Fast forward, long story short, I hyperventilated, um, lost consciousness, went out, basically not breathing, had a pulse that was recognizable. They were calling 911. Medics were on their way out, all this stuff. And I was sitting there and I'm like, man, what is going on? Because I couldn't see anything. It was just dark.
Yeah.
I'm laying there and it's just completely dark. And I can hear everyone talking around me, and I can feel like my body flipping, like my legs like shaking and stuff, and my arms shaking. And all of a sudden I hear someone go, he doesn't have a pulse.
Oh
And I
no.
said, I said, whoa, they think I'm dead. I was like, I gotta set up.
Yeah.
Like I gotta set up because they think I'm dead. When I set up, I literally I set up out of my body. Like I was dead.
Well.
I
Oh.
set up out of my body and I was standing beside, and every in that setting up, just that split second that I sat out of my body, everything just became so clear, and just like that millisecond of setting up,
Mm.
of like, oh my god, this never stops, dude. And it's just like, holy shit, if people knew like what this really was, like, we are energy and we never stop. And so that's what was so confusing, because the voices, there was never a pause in the voices, there was never a pause in me being there. Even though my eyes were closed, I was always there. And when I woke up, I woke up, and when I set up, when I really set up, when my physical self set up, I set up and I grabbed the chief he was pinching my arm, and in my ear, he was like cuffed around my ear, like he knew I was in the spirit world and leaving, and he was trying to call me back. He's like, come back, because he'd been through that before. He's seen it
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
I set up and I was like, because I saw some stuff that was going on with him too, and I'm like, I'm a good man, and because I saw like kind of like what was going on, how he looked at me and stuff. So, but that's a whole nother story. But um, yeah, so that's when I lost my fear of death, and it's not that I don't love life, I just don't fear death, because I love my life even more now than, because I know that, you know, the suicide and the depression and everything, that I went through from, basically 2007 on, from 2007 2007 2016, that
Yeah.
deep depression. It was even if I was evil or left, I don't believe that it never, it just never stops, and that was the biggest thing that I got out of that near death.
That was freaking awesome. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That was. I'm sorry, man. I hope that's not bad to say. That was awesome. That was awesome. That was a wild story. I feel like I was there. I'm sitting here just thinking, like, oh my god, like the intensity kept building. You're a great storyteller, man. I mean, you're a freaking excellent storyteller. My gosh.
I'm just telling my experiences, man. Like,
I know, but like you don't understand. People do that all the time. They don't have to be good at it. You are an excellent storyteller. That is awesome. I'm yeah,
I really asked for that, and I was literally, when I was in that point of giving that choice,
yeah.
I could have went on. I knew I could have went on and started over and to whatever I wanted. Like, literally, I was given the choice to start out. I could start over in whatever I wanted,
I
and
wouldn't come back here.
or I could come back. But I I asked in that moment. I was like, "What haven't I done yet?" And it's like, you haven't walked with this understanding on two legs yet. You haven't walked without the fear of death on two legs yet, like this. You and so when I came back, I was, and I saw my kids, uh, and my wife. I saw everybody in my life at that time. I got to go to them, and I got to see how they were going to react to both if I died and came back.
Mm,
So I decided to come back, and
yeah.
was definitely wrote it into my Akashic records, or whatever you want to call it. And rewrote my soul contract that I was going to be able to come back, articulate this, and share it. And because not everybody can have near deaths, or not everybody can do this, and I hope that me sharing it allows people not to go through such a violent way of getting these lessons. I hope they can get them in a much more compassionate way.
Yeah. Listen, man, I gotta have you back. I mean, if you want, I do the after hour show on the weekend. Like, I gotta have you back sometime.
No
Let
worries, man.
We should talk about when you can come back, because I feel like there's so much more that we could talk about. There's so much more we could talk about.
Yeah, man, you should take a peek at the books, maybe, and then have a conversation after that. Like,
I'm gonna buy the book. I'm gonna buy. I just because it resonates, especially the "I'm Perfect and So Are You" book. I've got to read. I've got to read that book. I've got to read that book. But I'm gonna get them both because I want to know. I just want to see. I have Kindle. I have Kindle. I don't know if I have Kindle Unlimited right now, but I definitely have Kindle. So I'm gonna read at least
yeah,
one of those books. We're gonna talk. So the next time we talk, I'll have a better idea of what's going on. Man, this is awesome, man. Again, I feel like I'm stepping into your world because I know nothing about any of the stuff you're talking about. Nothing.
you're gonna go down a rabbit hole, man. Like,
I want to go down the rabbit hole, man. I'm trying to figure out what's going on, brother. I don't know what's going on. When I think about the phenomena, there's a hardcore, there's the hard facts and data and what's the government doing, all that. But then there's like what does it mean for us? I'm not getting those answers. Like, okay, cool. There's a government program, it's secret, and they don't want to tell us. What does it mean for us? This is where I get those kind of answers. For me, it's
you,
like yeah.
you know how I see the government right now, man? I see the government like that, like in sixth grade when y'all voted on student council, and there was like a group of like 12 people that got voted on student council and thought they
Yeah.
decided who the hall monitors were and shit like that. And
Yeah.
like most of the class like looked at them like, man, they just made up this like thing, and they're like going through it and
Yep.
expect
Yep.
everyone else just to like.
Yeah.
That's how I see the government now. I think it's funny. Like, I see it, and I just see it from a different lens, man. I see
Yeah.
it's funny to me, and I see the government squirming right now, trying to keep control of a situation. That there's the more and more people that do mushrooms, the more and more people that have these profound experiences, whether they be through UFO contact or ayahuasca journeys or near deaths or whatever it is.
Yeah.
There's more and more people having these spiritual mystical experiences that shift their understanding, like, just from one single
Instantaneous.
moment,
Yeah.
and I see, I predict that we're going to have more and more sightings. I think by the end of this year, I've said this for a couple of years now, but I really truly think that it might happen this year. I think there's going to be a mass contact event. And at that,
We've heard this by other people. Everybody's saying that. Everybody's saying that.
well, if you've seen a ship, like if just seeing a ship and like that point where you realize it's not Starlink, it's not a meteor. This is definitely something, this is a craft that turned 90 degrees and took off at Mach a million or whatever. Oh shit, it's a real craft.
Yeah.
And that vibration, you feel something go through your body.
Yeah.
Just imagine if a flotilla come down that got witnessed by over half the population. We're talking about a mass consciousness, and I think that's going to be part of the mass consciousness shift. That's what I've seen. That's what I've been shown. Like, it's going to be part of the process. Mass contact event, more ground tap. This incident in Vegas, the ground contact in Vegas. I think we're going to start seeing more and more of these instances. They've been going on for a long time, the 90s and on back, in Africa, with ships landing on schoolyards and stuff. It's interesting that they went through this phase of landing on schoolyards and stuff, and connecting with children that had open minds to it. So I think I think we're going to start seeing more and more of that, and I think we're going to see a lot of events happen simultaneously. I think we're going to see a lot of Earth events happen. I think we're going to see a lot of star events happen. I think it's all going to happen kind of around the same time frame.
Yeah. Also,
it's going to it's going to be our trauma as a collective to say hey and reach out for that help, because there's no help there.
Well, listen, man, we're gonna talk. I'm gonna keep in contact with you, and I got to get you back on the show on the weekend sometime, because again, there's so much more we can talk about. But we got to go to break, and sorry about that, guys. We got to go to break, and when ladies and gentlemen, when we come back, we're gonna have a few more guests on here with us to talk about some things in the news. But I'm kind of, my whole reality is shattered right now, so I'm gonna try to keep my composure. But I want to ask you, man, tell everybody where they can find you before we go to the break, and so that they can check you out.
All the socials, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, obviously, sacredjournieswithin.com. Also my YouTube channel, Eagle's Nest Podcast with Drew Bankey. You can check out interviews I've done with tons of different guests, Laura Eisenhower, Billy Carson. I've had on the show Kevin Day from the Tic Tac incident. And shamans from down in Peru we talked about ayahuasca and all types of things. The quickest way to find is Sacred Journeys Within. Again, Journeys is spelled with the IES, all one word, and you can find links to my past interviews on other shows. I've been on Jimmy Church, Coast to Coast, spoke at conferences. There's a lot of projects. I got a post-production project that's going on right now, and I got a pre-production project in the works. So a lot of stuff coming up. Wish I could tell you more, but yeah, check out sacredjournieswithin.com, and you can find that's the portal to dive deep. You can find my books there, all kinds of stuff.
All right, brother. Well, I want to thank you for your time, and you spent 2 hours with us. We could have been more, but I got to respect the time frame here, and we're gonna go to break, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody, I know you love this guest. I know you love Drew because I saw the chat. Again, so much love in the chat for you, Drew. So I know they're going to check. They're going to follow up on you. So thank you, man.
I appreciate y'all. I appreciate you, man.
All right. Appreciate you, brother. Take care,
All right.
man. Peace.
Yeah, man.
All right, everybody. We're going to break. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to hour number 3. And we are not alone. Welcome, Tim Senor. It is a pleasure to see you, my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you back, everyone, from the digital side. We welcome back our YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitch viewers. And don't forget, you can check out our archives. They are free at youtube.com/spaced-out-radio. Our website is spaced-out-radio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out the Bumblefoot. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not alone. We have even more with us tonight. Random guy, what's up? Tim.
I was gonna say it. Bumblefoot kind of sucks.
Bumblefoot. Bumblefoot. Oh
Wow.
man.
I'm just gonna say it. Somebody needs to say it.
Somebody
Bumblefoot
needs to-
sucks.
Come.
Like, I wish we could come in with like it's. By the way, it's Tupac's birthday.
Oh
So
wow.
everybody, if you got a drink, June 1671,
For the
and you're a
homies.
real one, put it up for
I'm
Pac.
a real one, fam.
I'm sorry, I'm a
Keep it
hip hop guy. You would never guess it with the caucasity that's going on. I grew up in Southern California, bro. Street racing, Compton, Avalon, Long Beach.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
So like where I grew up, no, I'm being real. I'm gonna take a moment and give
All
the
right,
man
all right.
the respect.
I dig
Shout
it.
out to Pac.
Yeah.
Shout out to
Yeah.
Pac on his birthday. Let me
Word.
say that, and then we can carry on.
The fact that you said caucasity, I know you know black people in your real life. I know you do, like real black people, not like
And
you know,
more
like
than just a token black guy too.
that
I'm
is
the token
awesome.
ginger. I'm the
The-
token
the-
ginger.
You're literally the token ginger in every circle, no matter which
For
what
sure,
circle you're
for
in.
sure,
you're gonna
bro.
be the token ginger. All right,
Everybody
so
needs
Tim,
one, right? Everybody needs
everybody
one.
needs one at least. Trust me,
All
I'm
right,
well aware of it.
bet. All right.
I want
You
to
can
give
proceed
Tim.
now. Just want to give my homeboy his props.
Oh, of course, all the no doubt, man. When Nipsey Hussle's day comes up, I'm definitely gonna call that out too. Tim, what do you got for us, man? What's going on?
Sure, I'll kick things off. Starting off from news from Avi Loeb out in the ocean. They have started their project to recover what they were hoping would be an interstellar object that landed out in the ocean, in the Pacific Ocean specifically. And recently, as far as we know, this was the first item that's been recovered. And Avi Loeb has given us a little bit of some insight as to exactly what they found. And so an anomalous wire made of manganese. I don't know why I can't say it. And platinum.
Because you live in
Yeah.
Oregon.
Maybe
Oregon.
that's it. I've been
You're
saying it
not
all day
familiar
though.
with mining.
Mining. Oh wow.
Manganese
I'm
and
messing with you,
platinum
bro. Don't
in the
make me
Pacific
go
Ocean
there.
for the first time. And so this is told in first person. So after our first run through the site of the first recognized interstellar meteor, they're calling it IM1 in this case, we found plenty of volcanic dust in our magnetic sled, containing tiny particles less than 1/10 of a millimeter in size. I was able to remove them from the sled's magnets with a painter's brush. And then he goes on to say that in that harvest of IM1's site, it yielded some of the same materials as the control regions away from the site until they noticed a strange curled wire, which is now labeled IS12, an abbreviation for the second unusual fragment from the first IM1 run. And so it ended up being on top of the magnets. The fundamental question is, why was it not washed away with the ocean water as the sled was dragged by the ship Silver Star? A plausible explanation is that all of those volcanic magnetic particles held it in place like a magnet, holding a piece of paper in place on a magnetic pad, which does make some sense. So the wire is an 8 millimeter long and curved twice with a rigid structure. And what is this made of? We find that both Ryan Weed and Jeff Wynn analyzed in detail this unexpected wire and concluded that its composition is anomalous compared to human-made alloys. For the composition analysis, Brian used the X-ray fluorescence analyzer manufactured by Bruker. So we can go on to say that the two composition peaks at manganese and platinum, abbreviated as Mn and Pt in the periodic table, were the elements that came up distinctly in this X-ray fluorescence analyzer. So knowing that this analysis has come forward, they're already getting some information on it that it is potentially something that could have fallen off the ship or something like that. They did check the ship for possible contamination, and they found nothing that looked like the sample IS-1-2. So, looking at this as potentially the beginnings of what we are seeing as a play-by-play for alien crash recovery,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool. In my opinion, I'm happy to see some results this quickly.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is I've been skeptical right up until this point. So now that I know we're getting play-by-plays and some of the analysis is being made public, that transparency is fantastic. And so it may not be alien craft evidence, or maybe it is, but either way, we're getting all of the stuff transparently, and it seems, rapidly coming from the head. Avila, over to you, RG. I see you had your hand up.
Yeah.
Please. Thanks for waiting.
Calling me.
You.
RG. Yeah.
So I just wanted to clarify it's a great story. I'm not shitting on the story. Crap, we're not on the air. So
It's okay. It's okay. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. No. So what I wanted to tell you guys is this. So RG has an interesting background. One of the things RG is not only a hazardous materials technician, he's also a radiological worker certified in the Department of Energy. He's also a hazardous materials incident commander by certification. So when you talk about precious metals, it doesn't move the needle a whole lot. These are cool things and it's interesting things, but it's not so exotic. It's notable, definitely notable, but I don't think we should get so excited about this stuff because, believe it or not only am I an a-hole and a stand-up comic, but I'm also a professional when it comes to materials. And none of these move the needle as far as being exotic in that level. That's all I wanted to say.
So I always thought that when it comes to this kind of material, that it was in relation to like UAP or UFOs in our case, that it was the isotopic ratio that was the significant element that says that this is not ours. I don't know. I'm not a metallurgist, which is what people keep saying.
You're going to a different fundamental there, dude. Like,
right.
Which is why I'm confused as to why this is
I can simplify really quickly.
What I'm saying is what you're saying is not wrong. That applies to that does not apply when we're talking about metals.
Right. So for example, to answer your question, Marquise, the American Elements website says that manganese platinum alloy is available as disc, granules, ingots, pellets, powder, rod, wire,
I read
foil,
that. I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't understand. I don't. So I read what you're talking about, and I was completely lost as to why.
TLDR? You want the TLDR? So let me say it to you like we're hanging out at 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
All right. This stuff is not common, but we be knowing about it. And like it's everywhere, and it's not really exotic. It's like those fools over there got it.
Yeah,
Ray
got some of that.
You get what I'm saying? I'm
very
saying,
briefly,
like, it's not special.
But RG, why would it be there?
The location is what's
we're talking about the ocean, right, man? Right, guys?
Yeah, but there was nothing else. He's scanning this area. This particle came in a.
Let me ask you a question. How many boats, ships, random stuff, aircraft, spacecraft have flown over the ocean? Do you know?
Well, random guy, please tell me randomly.
No, millions.
So you're saying it's random?
Millions.
It's random. You're saying it's random. Well, it's arbitrary.
No, I'm not. So here's the thing. What is
chances
my job?
are that
what
it
is my
fell off
job
a ship?
here?
Yeah.
Am I
to provide the counter? To provide the counter. Here's my.
I'm not here to counter. I'm here to ground in reality.
And
I will bring you facts that you could Google. The fact is, millions of flights of these craft, ships, spacecraft, meteorite, like Millions have flown over the oceans to have the opportunity to deposit such a thing. I'm not saying that's what it is. All I want to do is say that alone, we need what I always like. So here's what I do. I investigate stuff a lot, especially nowadays because I'm bored and I drink a lot. What I do is I look at things and I want one thing. I need the facts and I need a secondary evidence of whatever it is.
Yeah.
This is evidence. This is a fact, what you're talking about. I need a secondary confirmation, if you will, to bring that evidence into play and the way that you're saying. That's me.
Absolutely
I'm not saying
agree.
I'm right. That's me.
Yeah.
That's
Also,
skeptic.
how cool is it? He managed to recover an 8 millimeter
That's what I thought
long
was
curved wire.
How did you
So
find
tiny.
that?
I've recovered 8 millimeters out of random
the bottom of the
girls at a
ocean?
bar, bro.
Yeah, I
Like,
think the significance of this, at least if there is any for somebody like myself who doesn't, I don't particularly understand anything about what you guys are talking about. But this is what I think about this.
Yeah, you do.
I think that
you're not dumb. You're a smart dude.
I'm going to be very clear. I read the paper that article. I understood what they were trying to say. I don't understand the significance because it doesn't resonate with me. Are you, Tim? You get it because you have you have an understanding of what that significance is.
It's
RG, you know what the problem.
literally a needle in a haystack.
That's okay. So this is where I was going to go with that. The fact that we have the capabilities of finding a needle in a haystack, I think, is the significance of this.
That was literally the whole point of the story.
Yeah.
I think you nailed it
Yeah.
right there, Marquise. Well done.
Okay.
Because the artifact is more than likely mundane. It's easily provable that it's mundane.
Yeah.
But the fact is he recovered an 8 millimeter long curved wire, which is really cool. And we are literally watching a potential interstellar crash recovery taking place play by play with transparency from Avi Loeb. So I'm just happy that that's how that is going because I didn't have high expectations for Galileo Project. Not that I do, but at least we're getting the play by play, right? So
yeah.
That's cool.
I think
it's not an exciting find necessarily.
I think that the point that, I mean, if that's the point you were making, that's what I got out of it. I got exactly the point you were making out of it, which was that we can do what? Well, we're sitting here talking about sensor systems that we need to, we don't have access to because they're classified. Well, Avi Loeb's collecting millimeters of material out of the freaking ocean, while there's, to Random Guy's point, millions of ships fly over the ocean and they're finding millimeters.
And how much did we spend to recover that millimeter?
The millimeter.
And also, what does that show you how desperate that program is to recover something that they came up with something that
like, look what I found. Look at this. Look at, hold on. You get microscope for it. Look, my thing is this though, and this is Tim. Listen, I have my faults, but let me ask you this. From because you can, and I'm okay with criticism. I'm okay with that. You guys know this.
I'm not. You better not tell me I'm wrong, or I'll come.
We know. We've seen the photograph.
We know that I can't fight Random Guy. We know this, okay? You're just too big to fight for me. I'm just gonna be honest with you. But here's what I know. All right, I think that Avi Loeb is wasting our time, and let me tell you why. Because we have the classified information about UAP. We have a whistleblower that's saying that we have the craft. We've got Gary Nolan, who's working on the metamaterial, who's got the material science behind the actual craft. Not like, and no offense, the sensor technology is amazing. What you're talking about, that's amazing. His ultimate effort, the goal, is it's idiotic. And I don't mean that to be disrespectful. That's not true. It is disrespectful to say. But when you think about it, it's like we're looking in an ocean of stars. We're using radio signals to find them in space because somewhere out there, civilizations are probably developing.
Is this your white guy voice?
It's my British accent from the
I
Discovery
thought
Channel.
your white
And I'm
guy
just thinking to
voice.
myself, why in the world would we be looking for radio signals from a civilization that could be freaking thousands or millions of years ahead of us? What is wrong with you people? They devote their entire funding off of let's just use this one area of expertise, radio signals. There's got to be somebody more intelligent out there. Isn't it?
Well, here's one thing. Consider at least that Harvard University is supporting Avi in an endeavor like this, and there are
Yeah.
students thinking outside of the box that get to work with him and potentially be part of something groundbreaking if he does get to prove something cool.
I can't deny that. Yeah.
I mean, every university has this sort of thing program looking into the stars and thinking outside of the box. The University of Hawaii has a massive
Yeah.
one, and they've got the Pan-STARRS Observatory at their fingertips, right? And those are the kids that get to look at the stars,
Yeah.
looking at near-Earth objects. And they're breaking science rules all the time. So we know that there's interesting stuff happening, and it takes programs like this to get kids interested. So if nothing more, Avi is doing that. He's inspiring the next generation to look up and wonder what's potentially out there.
I take my comment back. I take.
Got to find something good in it, right? Because we may get nothing, and it may just be, not what we're hoping for. But I'm totally with you. We get a juicy story next, and I know RG can't wait for this one. So there's new news on the Las Vegas alien story.
It's real. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Sorry.
That's the news. You read the same article as me?
I did.
Thanks
Yep,
for
I
having
did.
me.
Yep, I did. Thanks for
This guy.
Go ahead, Tim.
this guy.
No. So the Las Vegas alien 911 call, not a hoax, sources say. So what happened? And it looks like there are potentially 2 more videos that have come out recently in support of something strange streaking low across the sky. And several people across Eastern California, Nevada, and Utah reported seeing the flash, according to the American Meteor Society. And so some of them were also able to capture it, where it looked like literally the meteor was breaking up into pieces. So it is in support of the meteor theory. And so these new videos coming forward, one from somebody that was able to capture, I believe, with their own handheld cell phone, and one came from a backyard, what would you call it? A night vision camera for security. A security camera. There we go. And so this kind of coincides with the 911 call and then the police that went out 40 minutes later. But potentially, RG, are you more in support of this being not so much a hoax as maybe a coincidence? Meteorite happens and then there was a disturbance in the neighborhood.
There was definitely a coinciding event. Like, there's no question. And here's the thing. We're in the desert. Like, you're going to see things. Like, I've been in Vegas. I've had a house and worked in Vegas on and off for what year are we in? 2020? For 14 years, I've been out here in Vegas. So, in various capacities, both formal and informal, for the government and just being a civilian. And I can tell you guys, there's weird stuff that happens in deserts all over the world, or anywhere that has a clear sky, right? You notice the lowest incidence of reports tends to be in places that have crap weather because you don't see the sky, right? You see more things in the desert. Right. Now, the other play on the desert is the fact that usually deserts have what? Extreme heat, extreme cold. You get a disparity, like even looking visually through heat, like you could literally see the air moving. I know, Tim, you're a filmmaker. You know what I'm talking about, the things you work with your cameras. When it's hot, when it's cold is the best video you can get. But when it's hot, everything is kind of like, did I see that, or was it an artifact? And I'm not saying that's to explain away everything, but yeah, we see a lot of stuff out here in the desert. And I do think in this case, it was a simultaneous, I don't know if you call it luck, coincidence, whatever, but it's causing a distraction because the story should be about the witness. The story should be about the incident. The story should not be about what was in the sky, because clearly, if you go by badge cams, the witness himself, whatever was in the sky was not where this landing, crash, whatever we're going to call it, occurred, right? So let's separate the two, because it makes a good news story to show that graphic or that video when you're leading in to the story. But I feel like you're actually denigrating the story. If there is a story, and Marquise, I'm no stranger.
I know.
We disagree on this. However, that does not change the fact, I think you will agree on the one point. Showing a meteor drop 15 minutes before the call was made, then people just go, oh, that kid saw a meteor, and that's the end of the story, which clearly isn't what happened here.
Right.
Clearly, whatever happened there was either legitimate and the kid in that family experienced it, or it was a hoax. But it stands on its own besides that video of the meteorite, which was clearly a meteorite.
Let me comment real quick comment about that. First of all, that was excellent. My gosh, bro. I don't think I wanted to say something similar to that. I don't think I could have been able to articulate it as well as you just did. That was fantastic. Again, I don't want to repeat what you said. You guys get it. There is a difference between what the witnesses said they saw and this meteor, which also did happen 15 minutes before the 911 call. Vastly different. And so I think if we focus on one, we can try to make sense of it by conjoining the two, by conflating those events. But that's what you're doing. You're conflating them, and that's in essence it's it's not genuine to do that. You're being disingenuous. So thank you for that explanation. That was
even
fantastic.
as a skeptic, I agree with that sentiment.
Fantastic. Now
That's
let's talk about
awesome.
that was fantastic. Let's talk about the authenticity of the event itself. Was it a hoax? The answer is no, it was not a hoax. However, that doesn't mean that it was aliens either. So let me be clear. There is another article that was released today, and as well as a news reporting on that by Channel 8 News, I believe it was in Vegas. That they said they followed up with the police officers again. They asked them about what they thought about the situation, whether or not it was a hoax or not. The police said it wasn't a hoax. They explicitly say they believe that the family was in genuine distress. They believe the family did think they had an experience that they said they had. They do not think they were pranking or hoaxing the police officers. It is unequivocally, undisputed that it is now not a hoax. It was a legitimate event. Again, that doesn't mean they saw aliens. However, I want to couple that with what happened with the witness, the young 17-year-old young man who made the claim, created the YouTube account, and is now wants his peace and privacy. In his words, he said that he wants that because he's not okay. He released a video where he said, guys, I'm not okay. I'm not okay. Please forget about me. Forget about this, because I want my life to be normal again. I have depression. I have anxiety. And he essentially regrets ever talking about it. Now, let me just say something. Random guy, this isn't to you. This isn't to you. But the people who made that young man feel that way, you deserve blurry Bigfoot photos for the rest of your life. Mother freakers.
I probably deserve them too.
Dude, I'm pissed.
I've been part of the government machine for long enough. I deserve bad things.
You deserve it. I am genuinely
I'm not a liar
pissed,
either.
Man. Because look what we do.
I'm trying to repent for my sins.
You stop. I'll save that comment for after the show. But listen, I am genuinely disgusted in the UFO community. Not all of us, but people in the community that have made him feel that way. I don't care if you're a skeptic. Nobody does. Skepticism is good. But when you make someone feel like that, who has a legitimate experience that's been corroborating evidence, video, police body cam, 911 dispatch call, you've got news reporters from multiple different news stations, including Channel 8 and an independent news reporter who went there to talk to the people, and you get a legitimate, honest attempt at telling the truth about what they think is a legitimate encounter. You deserve nothing. You don't deserve the truth. You don't. Because when you get it, even if who knows if it's true or not, even if you got it, you wouldn't appreciate it. You don't deserve it. I'm so upset.
You wouldn't know the difference because you've already made up your mind.
No,
you've already made up your mind.
Blurry Bigfoot photos forever, you son of guns.
I don't have a problem with that. People, and the problem is the general public doesn't have a way to discern these things. Like when I'm skeptical, I will state to you step 1 through 10 why I'm skeptical, and I will qualify my opinion.
Yeah.
Based on my knowledge of real life. Most general public does not have the advantage of understanding aircraft, space, military. And I'm not special, but yeah, I had a crazy life, so I know these things. So when I qualify my opinion, I will tell you, I will debate you and give you the reasons why. But the unfortunate part is, and this is where I was being kind of kind of, when I made my comments about separating the meteorite from the activity that the kid claimed, it's very important to me to understand that, like, everybody's entitled to their opinion, but if you're not qualified, if it's not about intelligence. I don't want to say that because there's like stupid versus smart people. What I really mean is, like, if you don't have the training, if you don't have the education in that field, if all of your education comes from YouTube and Twitter and watching ufology videos and watching this stuff, that's great. You have a grasp on something, but some of us understand the world to a greater degree.
In some
And that
ways,
doesn't make me special. I paid a great price for that. Trust me, I don't sleep at night. My point is, when I give my opinion, it's 100% based in reality. And sometimes it comes off that I'm crapping on people or I'm dismissing things. I've had to learn about being more tactful in this environment as I've learned as I've met experiencers and I've met others. I'm learning. I'm getting better. But most people don't have my background at all. They don't know what the hell. They couldn't tell you an F-18 from an F-15 flying overhead at high speed. I can tell you the buttons in that plane, how to get the pilot out, like, to the degree of detail. That's the difference here. So yeah, I don't like people to lump the meteorite sighting into the alien sighting or potential alien sighting, because that's not fair. We're talking about general public with no training. And I feel, even though I don't believe in this particular case, that's my opinion.
Right.
I'm not going to disenfranchise you from having an intelligent opinion on the same case. I just don't want to lump them together, because they're like, if that turns out to be meteorite, which it is, but they prove it without a doubt, I don't want that kid's story to go away just because we know there was a meteorite. That's my whole point.
Right. And the kid's family saw the meteorite go across. The cops saw the meteorite. He was already charged up. The family heard a disturbance. They went out with their pistols. They were filming. They saw something back there, freaked out. The cops show up. The cops are freaked out, which doesn't help the family wind down.
Right.
But we still haven't seen aliens as the public. We just have the story. And then here's the other part that bums me out, Marquise and RG. Maybe you can help me explain this. That when we did get the body cam footage, once they went onto private property, it was all blacked out. And we know for a fact that doesn't usually happen, because body cams have been on private property and have seen and filmed horrific things that are made public. So my point is simply that, why in this case did that happen? And do you have any insight as to why? Does it hurt credibility, help credibility? Do you feel like it spun the story even more because we have this secret aspect of the video and the police, working everybody up? Go ahead.
1 second, bro. I gotta say this, because there was some compelling moments during that video with the kid. You got it. First things first, there's a video of a being that's crouched down, crouched down, and it's like breathing real, that's fake. It's obviously CGI. Tim, if you saw it, you'd know of course. Fact. It's CGI.
I know. And that came out at the same time. It was,
that was, I don't know if the government or somebody did that on purpose. Like,
it was just somebody that had some time on their hands.
Okay, that was fake. Now, another thing is, guys, this is, I've heard, if you've ever heard of an abduction experience or a contact experience, whatever you want to call it, there's this experience where they see all these different type of little grays in strange places all over, like on maybe hanging from a tree and like behind a corner and just in weird places, like just littered in the environment. People draw pictures about their experience when they talk about it afterwards or during hypnosis. This video, listen, you can look at it yourself, analyze it yourself, spend the hour or two that I did looking. There are some compelling moments in that video that make me wonder if either my eyes are playing tricks on me or there were several beings in there, including
that's what they said. Yeah, that's what they said, that there were two.
Yeah. Yes. And one of them had a massive big head, big black eyes that wrapped around its head, a pointy chin, and like the big round pointy chin, and its head was tilted like this, staring at them inside of that freaking tractor. maybe my eyes are playing tricks on me. It was a silhouette, but you could see the big black eye on the corner of it, and it literally had its head tilted and it was staring at them.
Okay.
You got to look for
All right,
yourself.
Marquise, hold on. RG, I'm going to rewind because I want to go to a moment before Marquise chimed in. I want to hear what you had to
You
say
mean before
there.
the aliens landed on Earth said, hey, these tractors are pretty freaking cool?
Right. I would
That's
just
our
like
priority.
to, because my question was this. The policeman was already psychologically worked up. The family was worked up. They both saw something streak across. The family filmed something, you know, they weren't sure what it was. They were armed, so they were already worked up.
Right.
By the time they got out there, the policeman shows up, and that does not help when the policeman is like corroborating your story, right? And you're the family, you're like, oh, great. Now, okay, it happened.
Cops are not smart, dude.
Well, my point is that that's why the
They're not.
story is the way it is, because the portion of the police video they release is the cop all freaked out talking to the family, and then it cuts off to a black mysterious backyard.
You know how
that
you
we
become a
don't get.
cop? You have a good credit report.
So my point
said
to you,
one day.
RG, is why does the video cut out like that?
I feel like in this case, and I can't say why, it's a trust me bro situation. There's nothing in that video you guys missed. I know what's on that video. The point was this. They were trying to give the family privacy because there was other things at hand that are not publicly known. And I don't know how, I can't really go further than that. What I can tell you is this. I haven't seen the video, but I know cops here. I know very high level cops here. There is nothing in that video you guys missed regarding the aliens. There was no conspiracy there. There was another reason that was remitted. And I'm not at liberty to say it because then my source will be known.
Right, right.
And it's a trust me bro situation, but you know I don't BS you guys, dude. Like there's nothing. I also feel like the videos of the aliens and the tractors, dude, it's like, yes, we finally made it. We finally made it all the way to Earth.
No, I don't think. I don't.
Let's see
that
how
is
these
weird.
skip loaders work.
That's weird.
Oh wait, people are coming. Let's jump into construction equipment.
Yeah, that was weird. Like what? Huh?
Dude, I'm okay. I know we disagree on this experience. I think it's going to come out in time that I'm right, that the thing was a hoax, but I'm not going to go to bat for it. I have no reason to expend energy. Just remember when it comes up where I stand.
Hmm.
That's all I want to say.
Well, I stand with the authenticity of the witnesses. I don't stand with the claim of the aliens. I just think it was odd. Like again, it could have been tricks on the eye.
This video will be on
whatever.
YouTube 6 months to a year from now when the truth comes out.
If he comes out and says that it was all fake, he was forced to, because you got to why would he come out with a video where he's pleading for privacy, pleading for it because of depression?
That's fine. We'll let it, my sentiments are pretty clear. It's on the record. We'll see when we return to it.
We'll see.
Cool. So my next story is coming from the Drive, and the headline is "Aliens or Not, Secret Crash Retrieval Programs Are a Very Real Thing. Clandestine programs race to pluck foreign aircraft, missiles, and more in order to exploit them by reverse engineering and other means." And so this is kind of one of those stories that we can take a quick look at that just kind of show that there have been programs like this for as long as we've had a military. And some of the claims that you're getting to these programs being clandestine rather, and having secret crash retrieval programs that include alien remains and bodies and craft could potentially just be the mythos of the programs themselves, realizing that they definitely may be clandestine and exist, but are looking for more mundane, foreign, not alien technology. And so I just wanted to bring that down because we know that recently we've had a whistleblower that is talking about this and the fact that it's illegal for them to have such secrecy. Well, I would like to just kind of bring this as this article forward, showing that these programs exist to protect, Americans from themselves, if you will, and are, this is information that shouldn't be made public. If we're testing things in our skies, we don't need to know about that, right? And so that's kind of where I was focused with this article. I don't need to read it. We can just kind of cover this as a general topic between us. And I just wanted to put this forward with our recent whistleblower not being very specific, right, on any of the programs he was involved in. Now we know he's a legitimate guy, but the information that he was given potentially was on programs that existed, but they were digging up mundane things, right? They weren't necessarily picking up alien craft and bodies. And somewhere in there, the mythos has blended with the reality that these programs did exist. So how do you guys feel about that? And do you think that at some point there are two things that existed, one that may have dealt with alien craft and bodies? Is it the same programs that we're hearing existed picking up missiles and mundane craft? Or was it the same entity? What are your thoughts, you guys?
Go ahead, RG. You can start this one.
To me, it's like, yes, there's two different programs for everything. There's two different sides of every coin, two different sides of every program. There's the get funding side of things. There's the let's do this and let's show it to the world things. But yeah, if we're picking up assets in the capacity that you're talking about, that's not going to be broadcasted. And the problem is, what I see on the legitimate funding side of a lot of things with the government is they fund things and they get pissed off that they don't see the fruits of the money, right? That's the thing that we all pretty much complain about. But at the end of the day, they're still getting stuff done, and the majority of it doesn't need to see the light of day. It just sucks. It sucks because we want transparency. We want transparency on what's going on. What are we doing? Whatever it is, project, mission, recovery. But it doesn't work that way, because every time that you have transparency with something, you're telling the bad guys what you're doing. You're telling our enemies. And that's the one thing that even with ufology, you guys have to understand. I side with truth, but I only side with truth. And this is just me being a real regular dude who is not politically correct, not politically affiliated, but just a regular ass 44-year-old dude. I'm telling you guys, if you don't have secrecy from your enemies of what you're actually doing, you're losing. These people want complete control of us. They want to destroy us. Like, I know it's like hyperbole and internet and Twitter, but the reality is, if there was a plausible way for another nation, China, Russia, another superpower, to F us over, they would. And part of the cover-ups we do, whether it's extraterrestrial or otherwise, I know for a fact if it's happening, and I'm personally not privy to it. That's why I'm a skeptic, and I've been at the highest levels. I'm just telling you, if it's happening, it's for our families to go to soccer on Saturday. It's for your kids to graduate. It's for you to go out to TGI Fridays. It's for you to have your way of life. That's why they're lying to you, not to hold the truth, because if the truth was known, our adversaries would weaponize it, they'd monetize it, and the world would get real quick, and your comforts would go away.
And so why would David Grush be able to hint at these programs without being specific and talk so freely about it publicly at this point and not before? Like, why is it suddenly now that he's able to hint publicly about these secret programs?
Personal opinion, he's trying to get paid because his real estate job sucks. Personal opinion. True, maybe not. But again, I'm a real one. I'll keep it a buck with you guys all day.
Keep it buck.
Whether we're on YouTube, we drinking, whatever. I'll tell you the truth. My point is this. I think he's trying to get paid because he's at the end of his rope with what he's doing. But the fact is he opened his mouth. Once you open your mouth, you're in. Right? The problem is, how much support are you going to get for being in? So he's going to have to turn to Weaponize. He's going to have to turn to History Channel. He's going to have to turn to whoever's going to write him a check so him and his family can exist from now on and buy security that he's going to need about now.
But how was he able to clear that information with the DOD to say, but then they didn't come out and support any of what he actually did say?
Because what he's saying is either A, I'm not saying this is what it is, but it's either untrue. DOD will invite you to bury yourself at all times. Trust me on that. Or B, it's true, but they know it's not going to be corroborated.
Matt Ford from the Good Trouble Show just mentioned a process when it comes to talking about classified information in members of Congress. And this was in response to me bringing up the fact that, well, there is a video circulating right now about an alien interview. And allegedly, there's a document. I'm not going to talk about the authenticity of that. Let's not do that because, I think it's a recreation. I don't think it's real.
We did that Wednesday.
That's not even the reason why it's circulating, though, is because allegedly members of Congress are being briefed on a real alien interview. This is, Tim, I'm sure you're probably aware of this news. Yeah. Here's the thing about that. There are some people that say, for example, if that's true, it's classified. He can't bring that information to the members of Congress because they're not cleared. However, and I don't remember the language. It's in the interview the panel last night. But Matt Ford, he explicitly said that if the ICIG or the IG, I guess, says that this information is urgent and credible, which is exactly the wording that he used when referring to David Grush's his information, he does have clearance to share that information with members of Congress, even if it's classified, because it's been deemed as urgent and credible by the IG. So I don't care whether the alien interview is true. I don't care. The reality is that this information was cleared to be told to members of Congress, and even if it's classified. I don't see a conflict when it comes to having that cleared for any alternative reason other than it's that credible, it's that urgent. If you're looking at the details here, the facts are pretty clear. The reason why he's able to give that information isn't because it's random or it can't be corroborated.
You want to hear something crazy?
Yeah.
Want to hear something completely outlandish?
Go for it, man. This is Spaced Out Radio. What you talking
No,
about?
90%. I could go testify.
Yeah.
And you know that I could testify that everybody's lying. And I could prove it. I'm just saying. But I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to say that.
Can anyone?
No. But what I mean is, like, without going more specifically that I'm going, I have the resume, credentials, and the places and times that show where people are lying. I'm not going to do it because it's not worth my time. I just sit here and laugh.
Right. And do you feel like part of what is broken in this mechanism, even with whistleblowers, is that the information that is being distributed is not yet going to be available to UAPTF or Arrow because of its classification level? And is that done by design? And where potentially are we going if Arrow won't even be able to get the classified version of any of this information?
I don't know, dude. I don't know. I really don't. Because I don't know. It's like there's this whole movement. And I on one side, I'm super happy about it because I like transparency. Like, so I'm not rooting against ufology and I want transparency to the world. I think the problem comes in my mental block and my personal character flaw, if you will, is because I've been everywhere and I haven't seen it. And so it's like if I don't, I'm not saying I have to see it, but it's not just me. I have friends, CIA, NSA, name it, freaking, alphabet. that currently have worked for the last 20, 30 years, 40 years in some cases. And not one person at any of these locations.
But we
Not one.
know how information is compartmentalized, and the DoD is doing a great job of making sure that even the people that are doing the research don't necessarily have
If I
first.
can name building to building, site to site, the building number, the manager, the phone number, I probably know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, no, I know. I'm saying though, I'm feeling like the mechanism to research this topic publicly is broken, and by design set up to fail because of the classification of the information that's being given behind closed doors. That the Office of Aero and the UAPTF don't have they don't have
Title 50, you know.
they don't have access to that information. So basically what we're going to end up at the end of these is just more mundane explanations for UAP, and they'll never even get to the UFO topic. And the fact that we have a whistleblower so strong as this official that comes forward, even if we had two, and they could even corroborate each other's story without anything beyond that, they're talking about classified information that these teams will never have access to. Meanwhile, we have NASA still plucking at straws, wondering what UAP is, because there's no definition of it.
Yeah.
That's you know, so it's like all of these are designed to fail. I was even talking to my mom about this, and she's a scientist as well. She's
never argue with your mom.
No, she agrees that it's set up to fail. She felt very disappointed that that was the team that they decided on. And in fact, even today, I was trying to rebuke my mom, and I was like, you know, but they have somebody that seems like they're open and invested. And the UAP reports involve the ocean too, right? And so NASA has an investigator that is going, and her name is Paula Bontempi, and she's the oceanographer and former NASA leader who has embarked on the mission to explain UAP taking place in the oceans. And you and I even talked about this. They have one person on that, you know, and she's very new to it. She's embarking on the investigation. I mean, even in the terminology, it's set up to fail. So RG, I mean, that was kind of my argument here, is that it feels like we're getting the same thing we had 30 years ago, which is incredibly frustrating. You know, we're going to just have more silence, and they're just going to come out with mundane explanations. And also, by the way, you know, our whistleblower came out with a specific 1933 crash that we have. Why isn't, right? According to him, it was from 1933 that we have a craft from. From an Italian crash.
I thought the Nazis had the first one.
The Bell? You're talking about the Bell?
No, they
the Germans had. Never mind.
No, I know what you're talking about, and it may actually be this craft. It may be the same one that we got from them at the end of the war.
Pre-Bell monkeys.
Yeah, pre-Bell. But that craft supposedly is in U.S. hands somewhere. So that feels like something we could point to, you know, that is like a piece of heavy duty evidence. Like it felt like we never talked about the bodies that he spoke about. We never wanted specifics, like where is this? If you know about it, where is it? Like that's the interesting stuff. Like where are the bodies? Let's get some images, you know, anything more than nothing, right?
I mean, he claims that he gave that information to members of Congress, or at least through the appropriate channels. There have been claims that he's given images, video, and documentation of his claims to members of Congress. I mean, you mentioned it earlier. A random guy. You said specifically that to release certain pieces of this information would be a threat to national security in itself. You tell your friends, your enemies will find out, and so. Everybody wants. I just argue with somebody on Twitch about this. It's like, where's the data? Where's the data? Well, what do you want to know? I want to know the data about. It was fun. It was actually a lot of fun. It was more fun than I'm making. It wasn't a bad argument. It was a fun argument. But like, the idea is this: it's that you want people to tell me your nuclear secrets, or else I don't believe nuclear exists. I mean, how stupid is that? Like, we know that they have the craft. It's the historical fact that there's this phenomena going on. And so we know there's something to it. We know there are militaries involved. The question is what can we know, and tell us that, and stop playing this game where it's like we can't tell you anything because it's all classified. So,
RG, any final words in our last 2 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, just that I'm amazing, and I hope people get to my level.
Well,
a robin in a nest.
And make sure you
laying
tune
eggs,
into Dr.
people.
DOR on Twitch, because Dave made a mistake of having other people host the show. So I'm going to plug Twitch and Mr. Mike. His show is
shameless
taking
plug.
off.
Shameless plug.
No.
Dimensions of Reality, Twitch, make sure you count it. He goes live more than any other ufology. And not only does he talk about lit subjects, it's uncensored, it's unfiltered, and he shoots people in the head most of the time
Oh my God.
while you're watching it. So I'm just going to put that out there right now. He's
There's
on that
no murder.
POD tip and everything.
Oh my gosh. There's no murder on my show. Ladies and gentlemen, we
all
have
video
a
games. All video games. All video
Oh, okay. They're in video. Okay, that's right. It's in video games.
His show
Yes,
is
I do.
legit. This
Yeah.
man's been, you know what? This man been grinding 100 hours a week for SOR. Let's give him a damn plug. If you guys have Twitch, if you have Amazon, here's the thing. If you guys have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free sub a month.
Yep.
SOR ain't on there. Go to Dimensions of Reality. This is me saying it. It's not Marquis, so Dave can't get mad. DOR, Dimensions of Reality. Go sub to it. It's a free sub. It gets him contact. It gets him, eyes on his stuff. Almost said a bad word. If you guys want free, uncensored, what he does on SOR, go check him out there. I said it, not him, so don't be mad.
I love it.
Listen to Random Guy. I like Random Guy. I trust him. I think you should listen to him. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not saying.
He's got a trustworthy face.
That's
I
how
think
I'm
he does.
how I'm going to sign off. That's how I'm signing off. I'm putting it down for DOR Marquis. Period.
And with
Take
that,
care,
my
RG.
friend,
Thanks, buddy. It
thanks,
was
guys. I
fun.
appreciate it. Much love.
Thank
guys.
you. And thank you, the chat. The chat has been fun. And Marquis, thanks for having me on. Staying up a little bit later.
Thanks for being here, man. I appreciate it.
Right on.
Seriously,
Appreciate you
it's
guys,
fun.
bro.
It's always fun when you guys are with me. So peace.
Fam.
Peace, brother. Fam.
Gang, gang.
Well, gang, my guy.
See you guys.
That's what's up, peace. I love that. Ladies and gentlemen, that was awesome. We had a great time. We had a fun time. I want to give a special thanks to everyone listening in at home, in your cars, at work, wherever you may be. Thanks to everyone participating in chat, YouTube, Facebook, the Spaced Out Travelers Club, on our website, and on Twitter at Space.Radio. Remember, this show is copyrighted by Space.Radio and SOR Media Ventures Ltd. That's limited. Thanks for sharing your evening with us, because together, my friends, you all know what we do. And I want to say I love you all and have a wonderful night. And if I don't talk to you, happy Father's Day. And we own the night.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.